Okay, and we are live, ladies and gentlemen. How are we all doing? So I'm going to wait a few minutes for some people to, pour in, get the viewers in here. But first, let me show you. So last night, for those of you guys who are here early, I spent like 4 hours making a brand new countdown intro for the streams, okay? And I want you to see this, okay? This is so epic. And if you're watching on the replay, obviously you can skip ahead. But seriously, watch this, okay? If for nothing else, the fact that I spent way too long making this, and it's very epic, okay? But I'll see you guys in about 4 minutes here, all right? So true. I'm telling you, it's now nationalism, literally the future of the Republican Party. You cannot stop it. Yo, look, I'm the baby now.
This monument will never be desecrated. These heroes will never be defaced. From this day forward, a new vision will govern our land. From this day forward, it's going to be only America first. America first.
John, thoughts on VinceDao nationalism?
Oh, I mean, I've been campaigning that for the better part of 3 years now. Before I even knew Vince, it actually appeared to me in a dream, and I just have sort of been trying to subtly, when they say John Doyle dog whistles, he does, but not the way they think. It's always about VinceDao nationalism. They say I'm like a white nationalist. No, I'm a VinceDao.
Americanism, not globalism, will be our credo as long as we are led by politicians who will not put America first. Then we can be assured that other nations will not treat America with respect, the respect that we deserve. The American people will come first once again.
Millions of Americans sincerely love Donald Trump. They love Donald Trump because no one else loved them. The country they built, the country their ancestors fought for over hundreds of years, has left them to die in their unfashionable little towns, mocked and despised by the sneering half-wits with finance degrees but no actual skills who seem to run everything all of a sudden.
Bro, you can't even lie, okay? That stream intro is so freaking fire, okay? I'm literally, I've edited, probably thousands of things in my life. I have to say that's probably one of the things I'm like the most proud of. Okay, that was so epic. And stop saying it's fashion wave. Okay, it's not fashion wave. It's synthwave. There's a difference. Fashion wave is vaporwave. That is synthwave. Okay, there's a difference. So stop trying to ruin my optics here, folks. But yeah, what's going on, guys? I actually wanted to make that. Originally I wanted to make like a Fallout themed stream intro, but the problem was I figured it might look way too much like John Doyle stuff because, you know, he has like a 1950s vibe and that would have the same thing. So I was like, okay, screw it. We're going retro futuristic 80s mode. But yeah, guys, as you read in the title of the stream, today on stream, we'll be taking the political compass test. And the reason being, I actually had something else. I was planning to actually like post a video today, but let me share my screen so we can get the test started. Basically what happened was I just took way too long and just did not finish it. And so I was like, I felt really bad because I was like, oh, it's the summer, you know, I can't be lazy on the content with them. So I was like, screw it, let's take the political compass test. So without further ado, let me search this up and we can get started. I know I'm about a year late on this trend. I don't care. I never did this. I never actually did this when it was a thing. And I didn't really have a lot of viewers on this channel anyway back then. So we will be doing it now, folks. All right. So full disclosure, this test sucks. Okay. There's very little value to your actual results on this test. The question, not only is the axis, I think the whole idea of a political compass, it's okay. It's not perfect. I don't think it perfectly represents everything that well. But even with that considered, it's mainly more that the questions on this test are just atrocious. I mean, they're literally like the worst things ever. But I think the value more so in the political compass test, especially taking it as like a YouTuber, is more that like it gives me a chance to kind of really share and explain really kind of aspects of my ideology and what I actually believe, and you guys can kind of see that. So that's kind of the value of this. But yeah, like I said, this test sucks. Actually, after we do the political compass test, which is stupid, but it's the one that everyone knows, I'll actually take like 2 political tests that I actually think are good and actually kind of produce valuable results that actually matter. But anyways, without too much rambling, let's get started on this, folks. Can you guys see that, or is that too small? Because I could always go like full screen like this, but then you can't see my face. So let me know. I'm gonna keep it right here right now, and we'll see if. Let me know. I'm gonna check the chat in a few seconds to see if it's too small or you guys can see that. Anyways, let's get started with this test. Oh. Here we go. Okay, I remember this test. I've taken this test before. I remember that infamous first question. Of course. If economic globalization is... All the questions for this test are so stupid. But if economic globalization is inevitable, it should primarily serve humanity rather than the interests of transnational corporations. I mean, first of all, it's like, who says economic globalization is inevitable? Don't get me wrong. It's very likely that it will be what ends up happening. But I'm not a fan of really treating the issue of economic globalization like it is inevitable. I do think it is something that should really be hindered, at the very least limited. You know, I don't think... I think obviously while there are going to be some like economic price financial benefits to it, I think largely speaking what you're going to do, not just to the United States but to a wide variety of nations, is hollow them out and basically destroy nations, destroy the soul of nations, destroy borders. And I don't think the New World Order, and when I say New World Order, I don't necessarily mean like Illuminati conspiracy New World Order, but rather kind of the idea of a impromptu united world government. I don't think that's going to have very good results. I think that you saw in 2016, not just in America with, you know, the election of Trump, but also across the pond, you saw Brexit. And then, you know, later on, you've seen some right-wing populist victories in other places. It's like there's going to be a natural backlash, I think, against globalism, against economic globalization. Now, with that being said, should it, I guess, primarily serve humanity rather than transnational corporations? I mean, I think there is sort of a leftist premise to the question, and I don't think like necessarily what they're trying to get at is like fully what I'm trying to get at, but I think there is truth to that. I have to put agree. I don't, you know, no, again, what does the question mean, right? Because, you know, what exactly are you trying to say by it? But I would generally put agree. And don't hit me with the libertarian capitalist nonsense. I mean, let's face it, folks, transnational corporations are not exactly a shining beacon of what great free market capitalism looks like. They're very corrupt. They buy out governments, and they hollow out countries. And really, I would even argue it's not really like a great application of capitalism. Rather, it's an application of like corporatism, cronyism. And so, none of it, we hate big transnational corporations, don't we, folks? And I don't like the idea of a transnational corporation to begin with. Our companies like Nike, Disney, whatever, they should be American companies. That's what I believe. I'm a nationalist in that sense. Like, I believe our companies should be considered American companies. They should operate as American companies, not transnational companies. And so anything that destroys the idea of a transnational corporation, I'd have to agree with. Anyways, second question. I'd always support my country, whether it was right or wrong. Well, I think I would always support my country. Would I support my government? Would I support the American regime? No. But I mean, I think I'd always stand with like my country, and I think I'd always stand with like the principles that our country was. I don't know exactly. I just put strongly. I agree, because you know why? America's never wrong. So true. That's what I guess. That's what we miss. Is America ever wrong? No. We're always right. Okay, isn't that true? That's true. No, but seriously, it's like, yeah, I would always stand by my country. Would I stand by my regime? No, but the country, yes. Okay. Nobody chooses their country of birth, so it's foolish to be proud of it. No, strongly disagree. I mean, I think that's pretty self-explanatory. I mean, yes, you should be proud of your country, and you should, I think, take pride in your country to the extent to which you actually, seek to improve it. It's foolish to be proud of like where you live, the community that you've built, your ancestors have built, your forefathers have built, or even like that you've kind of come into, but you respect the people that have built it before you. You should be proud of your country, and you should be proud of where you live. Even if it's not even the best place, I think you should take pride in the sense, in the sense that it's like you love this place and you want to improve it. You know what I mean? So. Our race has many. Oh boy, here we go. All right, here we go. Our race has many superior qualities compared with other races. I mean, look, Asians are pretty epic, but I can't. I'm gonna put strongly disagree. Okay, like we're okay. Next question. Next question. Let's get past the demonetizing questions as much as possible. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. I think, well, okay. I guess, I kind of disagree with this, like sometimes it is practical, obviously, to like, form allies and stuff like that and work with other people. But I think it's also kind of dangerous. This can be kind of dangerous thinking to say, just because they agree with me in stopping XYZ or whatever means I should just be like their full out friend. It's like basically, I guess, let me think of an example of this. Here's an example. World War II, right? It's like making friends, and obviously, like in a practical sense, we had to do it. It was like we couldn't fight the Soviet Union to do it. Wouldn't have been a good idea to do so. But it's like, we created this unholy alliance with the Soviet Union to fight Nazi Germany, and it's like that you saw how fast that deteriorated, And I think in a modern political context, this is also something that we have to be careful of, like. For instance, fusionism, the creation of like this political alliance between conservatives, social conservatives, and political libertarians. I think to an extent there have been some uses to it, but I think it's also been in many ways kind of actually destructive, and it's kind of ruined what it means to be a conservative, and it's made conservatives actually ineffective, right? So and this is what, like, because Caitlyn Jenner is a Republican, vote for that, like, you know what I'm saying? So that's why I would say this is something you have to be cautious of. Obviously, you should have allies, you should build coalitions, but I can't say I really would agree with this, and especially say that they're my friend, because I think you have to tread very carefully on this, and I think alliances politically can really backfire on you a lot of times. So. All right, military action that defies national law is sometimes justified. I'm not a big war hawk. I'm not a big interventionist. I think you guys know that, but I think international law is stupid and really doesn't exist. It's a completely arbitrary idea. And who's going to enforce it? Like, We're going to do military action that defies international law? Who's going to stop it? And so off the basis, and I'm not like a huge, like, invade everywhere. You guys know that. But the idea that international law has any value, I think, is stupid. So I have to put strongly agree. There is now a worrying fusion of information and entertainment. Yeah, absolutely. I'd have to agree with this, And I mean, I guess this has always been a problem, but we all know, the pervasion of all the politics and the pop culture and stuff. You watch a lot of late night shows. They're literally just political commentary at this point. And, would it maybe be useful if the political commentary was favorable to us? Of course it would. But now, what it really is now, and I think to a larger extent, what the question could kind of symbolize is the fusion of, I would say, like the American regime. And this is why I often refer to the system as the American regime. And many people are like, that's just a stupid term. No, it's an epic term. Okay. It's so cool. I love calling things the American regime. But the reason why I usually refer to it as like a regime and don't just say, oh, the government or whatever, is because there has kind of been this consolidation of power, by the ruling class, by our political elites, by the globalists, that has not been in a good way, right? But there's been this consolidation of power where it's like entertainment, news, big tech, corporate America, it all kind of fuses together, right? They all work, they're all on the same team. They're all basically working as one cohesive regime. And I think that's definitely been a very bad thing. So, yeah, I'd have to agree with this. Actually, I'd probably put strongly agree with this. I'll say I strongly agree. People are more divided by class than by nationality. Strongly disagree. I think World War I essentially. David Bailey sent me $2. He says, "Oh, wait, no, I clicked on the wrong thing. That's Real American. Yo, Real Americans in chat. What's up?" David Bailey sends me $2. Says, "We love Vince Dow, don't we, folks?" Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Anyways, if you want to send in your super chats, be sure to do so. Your boy needs money. All right. I'm just kidding. Only if you want to. You don't have to. Hold on. Let me clear this tab right here, so it might be slowing the stream down a little bit. All right. Okay. On to continue El Testo here. Controlling inflation is more important than controlling unemployment. I strongly agree with this. Yeah, because I think like you can have economies with full employment that suck. Unemployment obviously is a concern, but if you don't have monetary policy under control, right? If like even then, like what is the point of having employ a bunch of people employed if the currency they're making is literally worthless? Like it's you can come back from a high unemployment rate, but if you have really bad like monetary policy, if your currency is crashing or it's inflation is out of control, like that is just disastrous. Like that. Then at that point, you're Zimbabwe, you're Venezuela, and like unemployment. I think is something you can work with, you can deal with. But I think sound monetary policy, it's like if you don't have it, which we really don't. Okay, it's gonna get worse. All right, so that's where we're headed. If you don't have sound monetary policy, if you don't have control over your currency, like literally nothing else matters in the economy. You're just going to be screwed. It doesn't matter how much unemployment you have, how many jobs are available. If the currency is screwed up, if your money system is not working, it's not functioning, you literally just cannot have a functioning economy where people can live like normal human beings. So I definitely have to strongly agree. Controlling inflation is very important. Because corporations cannot be trusted to voluntarily protect the economy, they require regulation. I would agree with this. I won't put strongly disagree because strongly agree because I think the premise of the question, they're probably headed toward like not just environmental regulations, that common sense, don't pollute too much, you can't dump whatever, but really getting to like super strict energy quotas. So that's why I'll leave it only agree. But I think it's definitely true. I think a corporation really has, and I know some libertarians going to be like, no, actually they do have an interest in protect. No, they don't. Okay. I think a corporation on its own, especially if it's considered with like the production of something, really has no interest in protecting the environment other than to the extent to which like that way they can sustainably produce things. But even then they might want to just pump and dump for profit. Right. But a lot of times, where do corporations pollute? It's the air around them. It's the rivers around them, right? And that doesn't really affect their production. So I think to a large extent, corporations don't have any natural interest besides protecting that of which they need their own resources. They don't really have interest in, protecting the rest of the environment. And I believe in protecting the environment. I think it's inherently conservative to want to protect the environment because we want to conserve, correct? We want to conserve and protect the natural beauty of the United States. I think it is inherently conservative to not be an environmentalist. Environmentalism is ridiculous and idiotic, but to be a conservationist, right? We want to conserve the environment, not in the environmentalist sense of like we worship the environment or we think Mother Nature is going to bite us back. That's not how it works. Or, or that we need to stay out of the environment, but we should use the environment to our own purposes. Like the environment does exist to serve humans. True. And so because it does, and because God left it for us to, use for our own benefit, we should use it sustainably and responsibly so that way it is there for us later. We can continue to use it. It is there for our kids. It is there for our grandkids. That's my conservative environmental policy. And I think that's the difference between a conservationist and environmentalist. Environmentalists believe we should just basically leave the environment alone, guys. Mother Nature, I don't believe in that. I believe we should use Mother Nature, exploit nature, but exploit it responsibly so that way it is there for us to enjoy still and it's there for us to sustainably use. So anyways, from each according to his ability to each according to his need is a fundamentally good idea. Strongly disagree. That is, if you don't know, that is a core tenet of Marxist theory. Strongly disagree. It's not a good idea. The freer the market, the freer the people. I would say generally this is true. Now, I would not say this is true close to all of the time. Okay, obviously not. I think there are plenty of times, plenty of instances, and let me take this super chat off the screen. Someone says you should do the SAP. I don't know what that is. The questions are less biased, but we are going to do another test after this, so don't worry about it. But let's see here. Where's the test out? Okay, free to market, free to the people. So I think generally this is usually the case, but I think it's just better. It's just functionally better. It's more efficient at allocating resources. It ensures a better quality of life when you have, an economy where goods are basically driven privately by market demand and, by consumer demand and not by a centrally planned, government ran socialist economy. With that being said, I think there are plenty of examples where a market can be too free or a free market can ultimately, actually infringe on freedom. And when I say freedom, well, to an extent, I mean like literally actual freedom, but I also mean just like, the ability for the liberty for people to like live, comfortable middle-class lives. Examples of this. Like I said on the first question, globalism has been a disaster. Economic globalization has been a disaster. And I would not say by any means that globalization has made America more free as a country, okay? As a nation, we are more reliant now on foreign powers for our oil, for our goods, clothes, like all that stuff, right? And that does not make us more free. That actually makes us, we are now dependent on places like China, for instance, for the things that we need. Does that make our country more free? No, it makes our country less free because now we are basically, we have to now also consider their interests. And in a lot of ways, we're kind of like figuratively slaves to what they want. Saudi Arabia, another great instance, right? I mean, and Trump tried to reverse this to a large degree, but we've become very reliant on the Saudis for a lot of our oil. And now, like, is the government of Saudi Arabia good? Are they like a Western government? Are they on our side? Or really? No. Of course, they don't trust the Saudis. But now we are stuck, like, caving to their interests, trying to appease them, make them happy because of free trade. Like, no, obviously that does not make our country more free. And even domestically, and I get it. Usually, most of the time, monopolies or what is very close to monopolies end up forming with the help of government. I'm not denying that. But even the monopolies can technically form without the presence of government too. That's what people need to understand. For instance, say a nation has XYZ. Let's just say like oil, for instance, right? It's very easy to form monopolies without the government. Not very easy, but it's possible to form monopolies, without the government, especially with the production of finite resources like oil, for instance. Say one company theoretically in a totally free market could buy up all of the oil reserves, let's just say in the United States. And guess what? Now you have a monopoly. Now you're going full Rockefeller mode. Now you can set the price of oil to whatever you want. You can screw with it, right? And big tech. There's another example. Technically, and obviously, like we all make the argument that it's like this is public forum, but by the true doctrine of a free market, social media companies technically are private companies. They're technically allowed to set the rules however they want by this abstract free market principle. And obviously, we see that what that does to the political discourse in our country. We can all conclude why it's bad. But that's an example of the free market not making people more free. So I would have to say I agree with this, generally speaking, but there are many cases where I disagree. Sorry. And so this is, if there were a slightly agree, I'd put slightly agree. But since I don't ever agree, I'll put agree. Usually true, but not anywhere close to all the time true. All right, next question here. It's a sad reflection how something as basic as drinking water is now a bottled, branded consumer product. You know, I kind of understand the concern for this question, right? At the same time, though, and I'm not, you know, I think hyper consumerism does have a lot of issues. And don't get me wrong, I'm not a worshiper of consumerism. I definitely don't think it's a good thing, but like, with the example of water, why exactly is that really such a terrible thing? You know, now if you want to talk about like something like porn is like people having sex on cameras, like bought and sold to people. Yeah, I think that's like a terror. That's like capitalism at its worst, right? But like water, you know, water is a resource that people have fought wars over for like thousands of years. And what is really the big deal that it's like bottled and branded now? That just makes it just means it's more, we have much more of it. It's much more easy to access. So you have choice in it, you know, and I don't really see where that and with some aspects of consumerism, I could quantify like, dude, this is leading to people being addicted to vice, or this is, you know, leading to something bad. I don't think this really leads to anything bad. So I mean, I guess I'll just say I disagree. I don't know if I do agree that consumerism can be pretty bad. They only mentioned water, so I'll put strongly disagree. I don't think it's really that specifically is a bad thing. I think other aspects of consumerism can be very terrible, like the fact that fast food, there's a McDonald's on every block, and fast food is making America fat and obese as hell. You know, that's bad. But water being bottled, I wouldn't say that's like, you know, a real concern to me. Land shouldn't be a commodity to be bought and sold. Strongly disagree. What else are you going to do with it? You know, yes, land should be, well, I mean, it is a commodity though, you know. What is land? Land is, you know, land is finite, right? Scarce. There's only a finite amount of land in America and in the nation, in the world. You know, what are you going to do with it? You know, you're going to have, but not to be like, you're going to have communism, but yeah, is that what you're going to do? I mean, you're going to like have this communal living. I mean, I don't think land is a resource, you know, I think you should sell on the market like anything else. What are you going to do? You're assigned your land plot by birth. The government redistributes land. Like, no. And like, this is something I should be clear about. I'm not no socialist. I'm no communist. Okay. I know I've become much more populist on economics than I was like 1 or 2 years ago. So, but still, it's like, land is land. Yeah. Do I think you should like be able to privately buy and choose your own homes rather than the government or the workers' council or the collective assigning you that? Yes, I do believe that's the way it should be, you know? So I'll put strongly disagree. It is regrettable that many personal fortunes are made by people who simply manipulate money and contribute nothing to their society. This is this is a real problem with this test. It's like, can you be more specific? Okay. I mean, I think stock, you know, investing and stock trading and that, you know, and running, you know, hedge funds and stuff like that is inherently bad? No. And do I think they are valid ways of making money? Yes. In fact, investment is very important to the economy, right? Because you need to, in order for people, like, for instance, you know, and this isn't a necessarily the greatest example, but small businesses. We all love small businesses, don't we, folks? I mean, small businesses in like 90% of cases require investment to get started, right? What has to happen? Some bank or some firm or whatever has to want to invest in that small business, and then they ultimately, because you pay back that loan or whatever, or rent or whatever it is, right, with interest. That's how they ultimately make money. Same thing with buying homes. We love people buying homes. People should buy homes, not rent homes. But like, a mortgage is really the same thing. It's kind of an investment by the bank, right? Like, you need investment to drive the economy because most people don't have the capital by themselves to do everything they want to do. Now, where it gets bad is to the extent to which, you're insider trading. There's definitely a lot of corruption, around hedge funds and around, the kind of money manipulating class. So that is a real thing, But the question is, what do they mean by this? Are they simply just talking about the act of investing, which they could be? It's clearly a test as written by leftists. Or are they talking more about like the more intricate, manipulations of currency, devaluing, deflation, right? Like buying. You have like, what they're doing, what BlackRock is doing right now, like literally creating their own housing bubble by buying up a bunch of homes and then renting them to people. And like that's bad. Obviously that's bad. But the mere act of investing, that's not bad. So like, I don't know what it means by this. So, I mean, I guess I'll put agree, but what does it mean? Like, what do you mean by it? Should I put agree? Should I put disagree? Like, I don't know what to put here. Okay. Like, so, actually, what? Why not? I'll put disagree simply because it'll make me more right-wing on the spectrum. That's the only reason. Like, it's such a stupid question. There's like, you could honestly answer either. I'll assume they're just talking about general day trading or whatever, because, a lot of leftists genuinely do kind of like, they kind of see charts and numbers and think that like, there's nothing real or tangible behind it when there absolutely is. So, all right, let us continue here. Protectionism is sometimes necessary in trade. Strongly agree. Actually, I wouldn't even say sometimes. I would say it's always necessary in trade. You have to, I'm a nationalist, right? I believe that nations, as much as they can, should produce things for themselves and should, especially, and, maybe I know some nations are smaller, some nations need trade because they literally don't have enough resources to do it. But I'm an American. America, for the most part, maybe with the exception of minerals, but America has access to most of the things it needs to run its society, right? So, and I firmly believe that Americans should make things for themselves. We as a country should make the things that we need at home for a number of reasons. I think most practically, most pragmatically, simply for self-sufficiency purposes. You do not want to be reliant on other countries for things, okay? Like I said earlier, that actually makes you less free. It makes you less sovereign as a nation when you have to rely on other nations for your things. Because what happens when a nation cuts it off? What happens when nations decide they don't like you? What happens when nations use that influence? They use that influence they have over you to coerce you into doing something you don't want to do as a nation. That's terrible. So, but even like to a lesser extent, I think there's just something about a country that's is like an industrial country, a country that manufactures, where like a huge population of people make our working class. They make things with their hands. There's just I think there's some degree of just dignity that comes with that type of work, and that comes with that country, the ethos of that country. It's just, I think it's good for national pride, and I think it actually helps people. It makes a lot of people a lot happier. And I think in order to have a conservative society, in order to have a society where people are building families and they're kind of happy, they're kind of living in stability, I think you need a strong middle class, obviously, but also a strong working class. You need a strong class of people who, go work 9 to 5 in a factory, right? Like I think you need that population of people, and we've seen that as our society has moved away from that, we've seen what that's kind of done, and that basically caused the entire political rise of Donald Trump, didn't it? And so we see that that's really left a lot of people behind. It's wrecked a lot of families, and not a fan. Okay, the next question. The only social responsibility of a company should be to deliver a profit to its shareholders. I would say I disagree with this. obviously it's probably, your main is the main goal of a company, right? But I think, but I think especially with larger corporations, I think they should have some degree of feel some degree of social responsibility also to their country. Okay, to their country. I think that's very important. Obviously, today we have a corporate class that has no loyalty to our country. They are globalists, right? And so they ultimately have loyalty to the globalist agenda, which is inherently anti-American. It's against the nation state. And so they do feel like people say, oh, there's no corporate social responsibility anymore. There is. It's just to a different order. It's just loyal to a different cause. It used to be traditionally there was a corporate social responsibility and like a wealthy social responsibility to America, right? Like Andrew Carnegie, for instance, building a bunch of libraries, right, to give back to his country, to provide knowledge and to provide resources to his countrymen, right? That was kind of the old that's American social responsibility, and obviously not corporate but wealthy, who ran a bunch of companies, right? But now it's not to that. It's to it's to China, it's to the globalist American empire. That's what it's to now. So the corporate social responsibility of today is very flawed, but I think there should be some, but I think it should be to the country. All right. The rich are too highly taxed. I think everyone's too highly taxed, to be completely honest, but I think I'm for lowering the tax brackets for basically everyone. So I guess to that extent it's true. The problem I have though is that the rich for a lot of instances, they don't pay a lot of taxes because we have a tax code where they're wealthy enough to hire professional accountants and stuff. They got their CPAs and stuff like that, where they basically get out of paying tax, right? And so a lot of times you have rich people finding a way to pay lower taxes than not in all cases, by the way. There's a lot of cases where rich people still do pay higher tax rates, but it's undeniable there are a lot of cases where we have a broken tax code that allows the rich, and not just the rich, it's mainly a lot of big corporations. That's really who I'm talking about when I mention it, to get out of taxes. But I think if we were to close the loopholes, I would say, yeah, we should basically lower the tax rates on everyone, including the rich, I would say. Unless you're woke, in which case, unless you're like a cringe billionaire that donates to Democrats, in which case we're taxing you at 99%. Don't care. Okay, I didn't make the rules, but I'll say generally, yeah. But because I think I'm just a fan of lowering taxes in general, but I wouldn't say that. I think that the rich get out of paying taxes a lot, which I'm not a fan of. I want to close those loopholes. But let's say I have all the loopholes closed. I would say, yeah, just lower everyone's corporate tax rates. I mean, not corporate tax rates, income tax rates, unless you're cringe and woke. We should implement a woke tax. I do believe in that. Okay. Literally, you're taxing your political enemies? Yes. Deal with it, bro. Mad? Where's my sunglasses? Yo, mad? Okay, you mad, bro? Yeah. All right. Those with the ability to pay should have access to higher standards of medical care. Yeah, I agree with this. And don't get me wrong, I'm not for a completely like laissez-faire healthcare system. I do think our government and our country has some responsibility to look after the health of people, and that includes, making it easier for people to afford healthcare. So I'm not a total laissez-faire, healthcare guy. I do believe in kind of ensuring some minimum degree of care, and I think that's actually kind of conservative to say, because it's like we want to look out for the health of our nation, right? But with that being said, I do still believe in a market, even if I believe in some assistance. I do still believe in a market healthcare system. Healthcare, like anything, really is a commodity, and so it does have to be bought and sold to some extent. And so I think if you have the money, and obviously this is not ideal. It's like, oh well, but it's so screwed up that rich people get better medical care. Okay, well, but that's with most things, isn't it? It's like I think the alternative is really much worse. And I don't live in a utopia. I mean, I understand that. So I would say yes. The people, if you have a higher ability to pay, you should have access. You should be able to access higher standards of medical care, just as with anything else. And I think the alternative is not good. At the same time, like I said, I'm not totally. I think that we should try to make healthcare cheaper. Now, to a large extent, that there are actually, I think, and not to be a total libertarian, but it is true. A big reason why healthcare is so expensive is actually because of overregulation, right? Obamacare set in a lot of mandates as to what you have to, provide in terms of healthcare. And so that makes it very hard to be competitive. It makes it very hard to offer, one service over another, or try to, or give people only the services that they want, not the services that are mandated, whatever. And also, I think if we deregulated, if we let people compete across state lines and made there a lot less red tape, you would have, I think, because that's a big problem in the health insurance system today. There's a lot of monopolies and oligopolies, right? There's a small, powerful group, and it's largely because of all that regulation, all that red tape that allows the people at the very top to basically commit cronyism, to consolidate power at the very top. And so I think if you deregulated the healthcare market to a large extent, you would bring down the cost of healthcare. But I also think that there's, as countrymen, we should feel some degree of responsibility to also ensure the health of our nation. Part of that could be, some type of Medicaid. You know what I mean? I'm not for abolishing that. I am for reforming it so it's more functional and it's not really like abused so much. But I believe in still kind of keeping programs like that, perhaps even expanding them when done correctly, in order to ensure the common good for America. But I do believe in a market healthcare system. Okay, let's see. Governments should penalize businesses. I think I'm taking. I need to go through this test a little bit faster. My explanations are like so slow. We're only on page 2. It has been like an hour, almost an hour. Holy shit. Okay, let's speed up a little bit. Unless I go on more tangents. Okay, government should penalize businesses that mislead the public. Strongly agree. I guess actually, I'll only put this as agree because, I'm not like a total purist on this. Like, if you slightly mislead, you slightly oversell your product, that's just advertising, right? But I think if you like criminally, like literally lie, or like really grossly exaggerate what you're selling and basically scam people, yeah, I think you should be penalized for that. But all advertising to some degree is always a little bit misleading. Are we to say that when okay, here's an example. Video games. You see, the trailers for video games are always very cinematic and they don't look much like the real game. But it's like, is that misleading, right? So I'll leave it at agree, because it can be a little bit like overbearing in that sense. All advertising has to oversell a product a little bit, but if it's very extreme, yeah, I would say they should be penalized for that. A genuine free market requires restrictions on the ability of predator multinationals to create monopolies. Strongly agree. And for the purpose of time, I will not really explain that because I think we've talked about that a little bit before already. But yeah, in order to, the reason why a free market works so well is because of competition. Okay, and when you have monopolies, you inherently do not have competition. And so basically every single benefit that there was before to having a free market is destroyed by monopolization. So, all right. Abortion, when the woman's life is not threatened, should always be illegal. Strongly agree. I think that's self-explanatory. I don't think we have to get into that. So, for the purpose of time, we shall zoom ahead here. Okay. All authority should be questioned. I guess questioned in this, you should always ask like why things are there, right? To the extent to why, it's good. It's good to always kind of ask so you understand the world around you and understand why it's there. But questioned in the sense of like rebelled against, like pushed back against, I strongly disagree with that. I think that a lot of authority and a lot of hierarchy is justified and it's there for a reason. It really should not be largely questioned past the point of, oh, let me just stop and understand this. Okay, that's the way. Oh, that's why it's there. That's how it works. Okay, but beyond that, right? I think I would have to I'm actually gonna put disagree with this. Because I would assume by question they mean more than just kind of just asking yourself why it's there, right? But I think that this is something I'll probably make a whole video about at some point. But real conservatism, what truly ideologically means to be a conservative, is very dependent on the preservation of order and specifically hierarchy, right? And I think a lot of the hierarchy that we see in society, that I would argue naturally forms in society, is there for a reason, right? It's actually kind of a product of nature, I would say. Whether it's the gender role between a man or a woman, or the tendency of a lot of people to look up to leaders, right? All that type of stuff. I would argue is the natural hierarchy of man. I think it's something that manifests itself in nature. I think it's kind of evolutionarily built into us. I also think that, from a religious perspective, I obviously think it's something that God has sort of made. I think it's kind of like God's rules in a sense, right? And so I'll put disagree. I don't think I think a lot of times we should really respect and validate the authority. Not all authorities, obviously. Obviously, there are some authorities that are bad, but to a large degree, there are many authorities that we should really just leave alone and stop trying to override or break or question to any large degree. Okay. An eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. I don't understand how this is even relevant to like politics. Like, what is this? Who cares? What? I mean, I guess I don't even know how to answer. I'll just put it. I don't know. Okay, taxpayers should not be expected to prop up any theaters or museums that cannot survive on a commercial basis. No, I disagree with this. I think there is some value in, and don't get me wrong, a lot of our kind of historical sites are natural things. Not our natural things. Our historical sites are culturally and nationally relevant sites. Probably could survive on a commercial basis, but still, I think that even if I don't think it should be reliant on whether or not they can survive on a commercial basis. I think that we as a country, because I think there's much more to our country than the economy and money and economic growth and all that stuff, and the budget and a bunch of budgets, right? I think there is natural there's actually more to our country than that. Now, I think that we as a country do have an interest, even if it is not economically or financially viable, in the sense that we may even be losing money doing it. I don't care. I think that we as a country have an interest in like preserving our own history and our own heritage and our own culture, right? And to the extent to where we're talking about like museums and national sites and artifacts and stuff like that. I think that even if it is not financially profitable, I think that there's much more to like life into the country that we live in than the economy and a bunch of margins, right? So I think that we do have an interest in preserving our national heritage. Absolutely agree. And so I would say disagree to that. Yeah. Let me make sure I read that right. Should not. I disagree. So I'm saying they should. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Schools should not make classroom attendance mandatory. Compulsory. Compulsory means mandatory, right? I'm an idiot. Hold on, let me make sure. Okay, let me make sure. I'm fairly certain it means mandatory, but let me search it up. Yeah, it is. I'll put. I would probably say disagree. I now don't get me wrong. I do think that it should be required for you to, provide your kid with some degree of education, right? But I don't think that it should necessarily be done. It should be. I don't think it should be required at all to be done by a public school or even like a government, even a traditional school in general. I think that you should absolutely have the option as a parent to homeschool or even train your kid in their own way. Maybe you want to train your kid to do trade, or especially if you're some type of trader. It's not trader, but someone who works in. Hold on, my nose is very runny. I have a fan blowing in my face. All right. I think you should have that option, right? So I would say I disagree with that. You should not be. Actually, wait, I might be looking at this question wrong, because it's like should not make classroom attendance compulsory. Do they mean like that doesn't say enrollment, that says classroom attendance? So by that question, do they mean like you have to show up to class? Because obviously, if you're enrolled in a school, yeah, it should be required that you actually show up to that class. I mean, what are you going to do? Are you going to oh, yeah, well, show up to class if you want, Timmy. Yeah, who's going to show up to that class? Like 5 people at most? Nobody's going to show up to a class that's not Oh, I guess some people, right? But it's like it's you. Yeah, you have to if you're enrolled in a school, you'd have to mandate classroom attendance. I don't know. Like, what do they mean by that? I don't know what that question even means, because like what I don't know. Like, am I reading into this too much, or what is that like? Oh wait, I actually I put this totally wrong. Should not make classroom attendance compulsory. So I would say I agree. Have I been reading any of these questions right? Wait, should not. And I for two, okay. Sorry, I read that wrong. My bad. So I'll put it. I guess I'll say I guess I'll say I agree, but I don't know what context they're really asking in. But I'll just keep with my first answer. I don't know. Okay, I don't know. But what if they mean, dude? I don't know. I don't know. Okay. Whatever. All right. Let me check the chat. What do you guys like basically think that means? Like, I don't know what it's supposed to mean, dude. I don't get it. Okay. Whatever. All right. Let's see. All people have their rights, but it is better for all of us that different sorts of people keep to their own kind. Oh, the optics of this question. Oh, curious. Now, let me ask you, political compass test. What did you mean by that? Huh? What did you mean by this? What does this mean? Huh? Are you trying to dog whistle at something, my guy? What does this mean? See, this is like, what is this question? Like, what the hell does this question mean? Okay. What are you trying to get at, sir? Huh? Actually, I'm sure, I don't know, maybe a woman wrote this test, but what is this supposed to mean? But honestly, let me just take this at face value, okay? And let me make it clear for YouTube that I am taking this question at face value. This is true. Whoa, right? This is true. And you take all liberal, like blank slate theory, and even to not even really applying to that, because we're also talking about like things that you are created in your slate too, right? Yeah, it is better. Societies are more cohesive when people share more in common. What is that? Some type of crazy like alt-right idea? No, it's common sense, right? The more that a society shares in common, and I know diversity is our strength. It's not. I mean, it's just not. It's not a strength. And if you want to say, Vince, that's disgusting. That's a disgusting belief. Okay. Well, let's not talk about society then. Let's talk about personal relationships in your life. Do the best friendships with people work? Do you have the best friendships with people where you share nothing in common, or do you have the best friendships with people where you share a lot in common with them? Do you get along better with your parents if you share nothing in common or basically everything in common? Do you have a better relationship or marriage or whatever with someone that you share a bunch of things in common with or nothing in common with, right? It's common sense. Unity, right? Into some, whether it's friendship, marriage, family, wider society, nation, unity is more likely when you have things in common and when you share things in common. And so, yes, it is better that different people, okay, and like broadly speaking, right, it is better that people with differences are able to have are able to have societies where they share things in common. And this is, I know this is so controversial, right? This is so radical. No, it's common sense, really. I mean, we know this is not crazy. We know that if we have a country with a bunch of people that don't really respect the same history or cultural whatever, don't speak the same language, don't share the same religion, don't engage in the same culture. I'll omit the other one for optics reasons. Right. We obviously know. So, I would have to say actually that I strongly agree with this. And I'm taking the question at face value. Okay. I'm not reading into it. Let me make that clear. I'm just taking it the way it's written. Okay. And I strongly agree. It is better that people who are different keep apart. Or else what happens? Naturally, conflict occurs. People want to kill each other. Okay. So, okay. Good parents sometimes have to spank their children. So here it's kind of weird because I feel like if you're a really good parent, you kind of manage to have your kids so well behaved that you don't have to spank them, right? But also I think that sometimes it's like I guess I'll put it. I mean, I'm not really hugely in favor of spanking. I wasn't spanked when I grew up, but I was also a good kid. But I think it's like, yeah, sometimes it's like, and I'm not in favor of like beating kids, obviously, but like it's sometimes very strong old school kind of parenting is necessary, obviously, right? And so I think ideally you want to have a kid where you don't have to, but if your kid is super out of control, you, as a parent, I think you have to take control. So I would say I sometimes agree with that. It's natural for kids to keep some secrets from their parents. Yeah, I mean, obviously it's natural. Is it always necessarily that good of a thing? No, but I guess it's natural, yeah. So I guess I say I agree. Possessing marijuana for personal use should not be a criminal offense. So I would say, I'm not a huge like pro weed guy, okay? Like I'm honestly kind of neutral on this topic, on the issue of marijuana legalization. Do I kind of think that prohibition of marijuana is really not efficient, and do I think it's really like a super harmful drug? No, I don't. At the same time, do I absolutely disdain potheads and believe that and very clearly see that weed addiction can make people very very lazy, very unproductive, and very just like dumb. I mean, literally dumb. We know that it fries your brain cells from repeated use. Yes. So I think that, I don't think people should, I guess I'll say I agree, because I don't think people should be like thrown in jail for having weed on them. But at the same time, I would not be opposed to fining people for having weed on them. Like, I'm not like a totally like legalized weed kind of guy. Decriminalized to an extent, sure, but I'm not a huge fan of weed. Okay, like as a drug, as something that society uses, I think it does make people less productive. It makes people dumb, and I don't think. We see the type of people that really use weed frequently. I mean, I know. I've never done it. That's something that's so like I was actually talking to my parents about this, and they're like, "Yeah, I don't know anyone over at the age of like 30 or 40 who's never done weed in their life." I was like, "What? Like you like what? Like that was just crazy to me, because like I like literally never intend on like ever trying weed. Like I don't want to do it. Okay, I don't want to do it, and I see what it does to people. I hate it. Okay, potheads are literally. I mean, think about this. Without weed, we would have never had the hippies of the 1960s, and conservatives would still control the country today. Okay, so I strongly have a personal disdain for marijuana. Okay, now for medical purposes, if it works, it works. I'm fine. But for recreational use, really not a fan. Okay, really not a fan. And I really sometimes want to say to potheads, straight to jail. But I mean, I don't think it's very practical to kind of be criminalizing it, like throwing people in jail for possessing it for personal use. So I guess I'll say I agree. But don't misread that. Don't take that as me being like soft on weed or being super in favor of legalizing it, right? I don't think criminalizing it has been the most efficient, but at the same time, I don't think it should be something that's like sold on every block legally with permission of the society. Not a huge fan of that either. Okay. Let's see here. The prime function of schooling should be to equip the future generation to find jobs. This is an interesting question, because there are kind of two sides to this, right? On one hand, it's like, yes, like obviously school, obviously school is basically training for society. And if you want to train people to be good in society, efficient in society, obviously, you want to be able to train them to be able to equip jobs. So I guess I would agree. I think that's the prime function of schooling. However, I don't think that should be the only function of schooling. I think there is a very large and significant and important, do not ignore, secondary aspect that it should also be to kind of teach people, in in the arts. And when I say arts, I don't mean teach people how to draw, but like, educate them in sort of the rich culture and sort of history and heritage of our country, and teach them to, respect that and cherish that and that type of stuff. And, so I think that while the prime function of schooling, yes, should just be to, equip an efficient society, I don't think that that's the only value that there should be to education. Obviously, I strongly disagree, obviously, with the way our education system is currently run and what they currently teach, to the extent of that sort of arts, humanities, like national, like cultural education. Obviously, right now that's terrible, but I think in my ideal society, I would have a component of that, right? I would have a component of that education. It just would look different than the way it does now. But yeah, I think the prime function of schooling and I think school currently should be more focused definitely on teaching people how to find jobs. I just don't think it should only be like a vocational training program. That's not all there should be to school. I think there's a high degree of, social development, cultural learning, stuff like that. That's also important in education. Okay, people with serious inheritable disabilities should not be allowed to reproduce. Strongly disagree, right? People with serious should not, right? Yeah. Okay. Sure. I want to make sure, because if I read that question wrong, it's going to look so bad. They should not be allowed to disagree. I disagree. They should. Okay. Yeah. True. Okay. So you want to make that? I was like, that would have been so bad. Okay. Yeah. Strongly disagree. Get the eugenicist arguments out of here. The most important thing for children to learn is to accept discipline. No. Strongly disagree. Is it to an extent kind of important? I mean, to some degree, yeah. But the most important thing for children to learn is to no. There's a million more important things to that are more important for children. There are no savage and civilized people. There are only different cultures. Strongly disagree with this. I don't even think I have to explain that. Strongly disagree. There absolutely are savage. There are absolutely savage people. There are absolutely civilized people, and I mean, this is objectively true. Now, do I necessarily think it is the job of, civilized people, at least for America, is it the job of us as at least ideally civilized people to, civilize savage people? No, I don't think we have an imperial. I don't think we're an empire. I don't think we should function as an empire. I don't think Americans are really ready or prepared or willing to assume the responsibilities of an empire. But I do think I would certainly recognize that, there are definitely savage people out there. So strongly disagree. There are savage people. Okay. The North Sentinel Island moment. Yeah, absolutely, dude. It's like, what the heck? All right. Let's see. Those with the ability to work and refuse the opportunity should not expect society's support. Yeah, I mean, I agree. Yeah, I agree with this. Mostly. Yeah, no, I agree with that. I mean, if it's like, it's one thing if, you say there are problems against you, right? Like something it's rigged against you, but it's like, yeah, if you're literally not doing anything and you just don't want to work, no, you should not expect a handout. The reason probably the reason I'm thinking of not putting strongly agree is it's because, like, I think this could also be interpreted to have to do with, like, moms and like raising kids, and it's like, no, you shouldn't expect raising your kid, and no, you need to be working. Like I could see how that is kind of applied to get to that point, and like that that's not something I'm a fan of. Like I do believe in, like, family oriented policy, and I'm not, obviously you have to have people working, like you need to work to turn society. It should be, I there is that degree to it, but generally, yeah, I would agree. So actually, I would, I'm gonna put strongly agree. You know why? Because I guess from my understanding of work, I would consider raising children to be a form of work, right? You have to act. You're actively doing something that is productive. By the way, you are being productive to society by raising kids. You're contributing to society. You're literally doing like the most important thing there is to society, which is ensuring procreation, ensuring the future. So I actually put strongly agree. When you are troubled, it's better not to think about it, but to keep busy with more cheerful things. Literally, what does this have to do with politics? I don't understand. Like, what does it have to do with political ideology? Like, I don't know. To answer the question, I don't know if I have an answer to this question. It really just depends. I don't think you should totally ignore the things that are troubling you, because I don't think in the long term, just thinking about more cheerful things in the short term, like that's not like you have to eventually face whatever problem it is you're facing. But at the same time, yeah, sometimes you just need to release. Sometimes you need to relax. I guess I'll say I agree slightly, because it's like I do think it is important to really face your problems head on, address them, or else if you just keep putting it off, it's not going to go away, right? But to an extent, it is also useful to sometimes just step away, just distract yourself, engage in other things. So I don't think that's always the case. All right. Bro, I've been taking too long. We're going to start. Okay, here's what we're going to do. If I don't have anything super insightful to say from here on out, I'll just kind of skip past it. Okay. First generation immigrants can never be fully integrated within their country. I think to an extent this is true, right? I actually agree with this. That's not to say that first generation immigrants don't assimilate. Now, do many of them choose not to assimilate, and that's a problem? Yeah, but I absolutely think like you can, assimilate, and so I think you can be integrated in the country to some degree. But I think to a large degree, it's like you will never you'll always have that that prior kind of experience and kind of prior sense to yourself. And even if you proudly admit like I'm an American, I identify as an American, I think there will always be a little bit of that barrier that in the second and third generation can start to wear off. You know what I mean? So I would say I agree. You can never be fully integrated. You can be to a very high degree integrated if you choose to. Many of them don't choose to, but I don't know if you could always be fully integrated. So I would have to say I agree with that. What's good for successful corporations is ultimately good for all of us. No, I disagree with that. And I think we've talked about this before, so I won't, go too much into it. But it's like, now, to an extent, and I wouldn't say strongly disagree, because it is usually good that if successful corporations are making a lot of money, a lot of profit, usually that has good net effects for the consumer and hence the society. But that is definitely not always the case. I think, and we've talked about that before. So I'll just leave it at disagree. No broadcasting institution, no matter however independent its content, should receive public funding. I think, okay, so I look to what does receive public funding today. It's like PBS and NPR, and that's disgusting. Okay, I would argue that's like borderline of violation of of civil rights law, that you have government basically openly giving money and endorsing political actors, which is what PBS and NPR is. So to that extent, like to what we give money to currently, I agree. Now, do I believe that in my ideal society would I have some type of like government sponsored, not necessarily like outward political, but like preservation of history, historical, educational type of broadcasting? I would have that. So currently agree, but ideally disagree. So what do they? I guess I'll put disagree. I mean, no public, however, it should receive public funding. I mean, I guess will be ideal, and I'll put disagree. Okay. Our civil liberties are being excessively curbed in the name of counterterrorism. Strongly agree. Okay, strongly agree. This is just true. Okay, I mean, I think we've seen what they've been doing to some people. They're spying on all of us. By the way, okay, they're out here. And by the way, by counterterrorism, this was written in the context of like 9/11 and stuff like this. But now, what is the counterterrorism that our intelligence agencies are after? Yeah, they're trying to read our messages from January 6th, and you have people like Nick and others that put on no-fly lists. This I don't know how you could deny that this is not the case. Okay. Our civil liberties are absolutely being treaded on by the American regime, and we are the targets. It's not like Islamic terrorists. Like we, as conservative activists, we are the targets. So I definitely strongly agree. And by the way, there are other people. Obviously Snowden, Assange. I think people who also are kind of heroes and try to expose this stuff, and they're obviously being criminalized too. So agree. Hold on, why'd my camera freeze? My camera froze for some reason. Let me see. I don't know what happened to it. What the hell? What the heck happened here? I don't know why it did that. All right, we should be back now. Let's see. Okay, we should be back. Let's see. There you go. All right, we're back. Sorry about that. I don't know what that was. All right. A significant advantage of a one-party state is that it avoids all the arguments that delay progress in a democratic political system. I mean, yeah, I don't know if they're asking you to endorse a one-party state, but I think if just reading the question the way it's written, I mean, that is true. That is an advantage of a one-party state, right? The advantage of an autocracy or whatever, or monarchy or whatever it is, right, is obviously that, you know, you can get things done more efficiently. That is the drawback of a democratic political system, is its inefficiency. Now, do I necessarily, and I know there's going to be a lot of people that would be like, that is so cringe. Okay. But do I necessarily endorse that type of system? No, I think that, and I know, okay, I'm going to get some, there's going to be all these like Marlarkers and stuff in the chat saying cringe. But no, I think sustainably, like in the long term, I think the type of system that our founders tried to set up is a good system. I don't think it's perfect, and don't get me wrong, I think it has a lot of flaws, but functionally speaking, I think it is just the most pragmatic system long term, because obviously the problem with autocracy is sustainability. Now, obviously, we have a very based, epic, you know, monarch or autocrat, whoever it is, then the country going great. But obviously, what happens once they pass away or relinquish power, right? That, I think that's why, to the extent, it's like not a democracy. Democracies are terrible, but like sort of this indirect constitutional republic that our founders tried to set up. That is the best system I think that we can get, all things considered. Do I think it's a perfect system? Do I worship or show for that system necessarily? No, but I think that you know it is somewhat true. Okay. But I think it is true that is an advantage, right? I think you couldn't deny that is an advantage of having a one-party state, is that, yeah, it would be more efficient. So I would agree. Although the electronic age only makes official surveillance easier, only wrongdoers need to be worried. Strongly disagree. Have you seen the people that run the American regime? Okay. Are they after wrongdoers, or are they after like just people who fundamentally want to make America great again? We know the answer. Okay. So strongly disagree. Everyone needs to be worried. And, you know, civil liberties matter. I believe in civil liberties. The death penalty should be an option for most serious crimes. I agree with this. I'll skip past, because we could have the death penalty argument another time, but I'll just say I agree for now. I believe I'm a supporter of the death penalty. In a civilized society, one must always have people above and below to be commanded. Strongly agree with this. And again, I'll make a whole video basically separately about this, but conservatism recognizes natural hierarchy. I think humans are naturally hierarchical. You know, you obviously have liberalism tried to do it a little bit, but obviously it's like, you know, Marxism was what really tried to abolish that natural hierarchy of man. It doesn't work. Humans are naturally hierarchical. They form hierarchies. So, you know, I think that in a civilized society, yeah, you have to have hierarchy, and hierarchy is natural. And I think when you try to get rid of hierarchy, it's just a disaster. It just doesn't work. Hierarchy, you know, you have anarchy. Hierarchy is natural. So I don't think that's a bad thing. And I think it's necessary. So agree. Abstract art doesn't represent anything. Shouldn't be considered art at all. Strongly agree. Abstract art is so stupid. Okay. Now, don't get me wrong. I do believe that art has value, but art has to depict something, okay? Modern art is so ridiculous. Oh, here's 2 lines I drew at the pastel. $25,000. Okay, that's modern art for you. Like, no. Modern art is terrible. Abstract art, no. Art should portray something, okay? It absolutely should. So, strongly agree. Art needs to represent something. It should portray something, not just, oh, well, this is an expression of my mind. Here's a bunch of scribbles of paint. No, that's so stupid. I hate modern art. I hate modern art. Okay, true. In a criminal justice system, punishment should be more important than rehabilitation. I'd actually, now on the surface, it's like, yeah, well, you want to rehab criminals. And I do think we should at least try. Now, obviously, there are many people that just cannot be rehabbed, but we should try to rehab criminals. That's not what I'm saying. But I would actually agree with this, because the main point of criminal justice is not rehabilitation for criminals. It is justice, right? It is justice for the people who were wrong, the people who were hurt, okay? And so that's why I actually say that. I think punishment is more important than rehabilitation, right? Because it's like, that is actually the central point of criminal justice is punishment. It is to establish justice for the person that was where injustice was committed against them. So yeah. Now that's not to say I don't think rehabilitation shouldn't be at least a goal. Obviously, there's a lot of people just not going to be able to. Should it be a goal? Yes. Is it the primary function of the criminal justice system? No. It is just it's just part of what we try. It is a waste of time to rehabilitate some criminals. Strongly agree. I mean, clearly some people are just criminals, and they're just terrible people. Evil people do exist. And there are a lot of people who are evil and can be redeemed. Don't get me wrong. Anything is possible. But there are a lot of people that it's just like, yeah, no use. They are just lost. Okay, the business person and manufacturer are more important than the writer and the artist. I think this is slightly true. Just to the extent to where it's like, if you didn't have a writer and an artist, society could still function technically. Now, would it function sustainably? No, because there would just be no sense of identity. There would be no culture, right? And so obviously they matter. But at least for 10, 20 years, it could function, right? If we do not have the business person and the manufacturer, society could not function for more than a day, right? Because these are the types of people that turns the wheels of society. Now, when I slightly agree. Now, I want to make it clear though that I'm not making the whole libertarian economic argument that the only people basically that matter are business people and just the people that produce things, right? I'm not saying that at all. I think there is great value to the arts. And I think that the arts ultimately, obviously you have the business people and the manufacturers build up this society, but it's the arts that create culture and make the society into a true society, make it into a nation, into an empire, whatever it is, right? So don't get me wrong, I'm not discrediting the arts. I do believe they have a high degree of value, but I just have to slightly agree that it's just slightly, very slightly. I think the business person and manufacturer are slightly more important, just in the sense that it's you need them for the immediate function of society. You can survive a little bit without writers and artists. But like I said, don't mistake it, because you absolutely cannot survive in the long term as a society without writers and artists, because you need culture. Okay, we are more than just an economic zone. Okay, we're not just a bunch of buyers and sellers and consumers that live on commodity spots of land. That's not what I'm saying. So don't take it the wrong way. Okay, because the writer and the artist are absolutely important. Mothers may have their careers, but their first duty is to be homemakers. Strongly agree with this. Strongly agree. Yeah, and don't get me wrong. I think that it's not. I'm not saying this to cuck. Okay, it's just we are on big tech. Okay, let me be clear that I think that fathers also have their first responsibility also is to their families, and the only reason I think they work and have to have careers is to provide for their families. But yeah, absolutely agree with this, and I think that the traditional male-female gender role is natural. Obviously not everyone follows it, but I think the reason why generally most people follow it, and the reason why most people kind of just naturally want to follow it, is because that's sort of the way it is. That's the way God made us. That's the way we kind of have always been in nature. And I'll talk about this another time. I'll make a whole video specifically about gender roles and they're kind of the reason why they're kind of natural and kind of need to be preserved another time. But for now, I'll leave it as strongly agree. Multinational companies are unethically exploiting the plant genetic resources of developing countries. I don't know. I don't know much about this. I know with palm oil, there's a lot of abuses there, but I don't really know a lot about this. I'm just gonna put disagree because I don't know enough about this. But I remember in 9th grade we did watch a whole documentary about palm oil that was kind of screwed up. But I don't know. I know it was definitely from one perspective. I don't know. I think it's definitely possible that it is true, but I don't really know enough about this. So whatever. I'll just put disagree. Who cares? Whatever. Making peace with the establishment is an important aspect of maturity. No, disagree. Now, universally disagree. I mean, well, okay, maybe I said that wrong, but I think that I don't think that all establishments are bad, right? I think that in many ways, establishments, you need an establishment. You need a kind of a class of people that is there and is looked up to and whose authority is recognized. And you need that for society, right? The problem, obviously, in the current context is that our establishment is terrible, and our establishment does not have the interest of our nation state in mind, right? They're not. They're terrible, right? The establishment sucks. But I want us to create a good establishment. Now, let's say theoretically we did create a good establishment, an establishment that really was kind of looking out for us. Would I say that you should make peace with that? And would I say that like you should respect that establishment? Absolutely. But I don't think there's a universal rule that you should make peace with every establishment, because obviously there could be many establishments, and there have been many establishments, obviously in the modern day and throughout history, that are just bad. So I would say I have to disagree with that. Okay, 5 through 6, we're almost done. Astrology accurately explains many things. Strongly disagree. Shut up. Astrology is so cringe, dude. Literally, oh, I'm a Scorpio. That's why. Oh, that's why the reason I can't find a boyfriend is because I'm a Scorpio. Oh my God, sis. I can't believe he did that. That must be because he's a Scorpio. Oh, I never date Aries. Okay. I can't date Aries, dude. I'm a Gemini. Shut up. Oh, hold on, my camera died. I gotta switch out the battery for a second, but let me just switch to oh, my bad. I didn't mean to do that. Back to share screen. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that. But my camera died, so I have to let me just go to webcam real quick while I switch out the battery. But yeah, but like literally shut up, okay? Just shut up. Stupid, cringe astrologists. Okay, and by the way, let me just say, I mean, if you ever notice the people who always follow astrology are a bunch of like cringe atheists. Like literally, the way I see it, astrology very often is like a cope. It's a cope. It's a cope because like everyone is naturally religious. Human beings are naturally implicitly religious, but it's like they're like, oh, I'm an atheist. Religion is stupid. God is stupid, and here they go, believe in some weird like ideology about how the way the stars align like explains your personality. No, shut up. Okay, shut up, stupid, cringe, blue-haired, spirit. Oh, I'm spiritual. Oh, I'm a spiritualist. Oh, I think Christianity is stupid. I think religion is stupid. Imagine praying to God. Haha, stupid. I'm a proud atheist. Oh, let me manifest to the universe. Hopefully the universe will send its positive energy to me. Let me judge. Let me dictate hierarchies and the order of society based on astrology. Shut up, stupid, cringe, blue-haired Emily. You are coping. You are terrible. Screw astrology. If I was emperor, I would make astrologists illegal. Okay, no more zodiac nonsense. Get out of here. Get out of here with your cringe, stupid, bullcrap, pseudo-religious astrology nonsense. Get the hell out of here. Okay, and literally every single white girl, and I'm obviously stereotyping there because there are many of people who are not white girls who also follow this cringe nonsense, but I don't care. Okay, you're all stupid. Strongly disagree. Okay, by the way, it's very funny because it's like the type of person. Astrology is a huge scam. Let me get my camera battery, but I'll keep talking while I go get it. Astrology is literally one of the biggest scams ever. Okay, literally, like it's basically the same thing as like like psychics. Like they basically they say, oh, I'll read your fortune for you, and literally they just tell you things that are so vague and could be applied to anything. That's literally so true with astrology. Okay, like literally and everyone kind of knows this is true too. They will give you such like bland, like generic, personality traits and stuff like that could be applied to literally anything, and they sell it to you like, oh, look, this is astrology. Oh, look at my zodiac sign. Can you believe that my zodiac sign explains my personality? Oh, what are your personality traits? Oh, very vague things that can apply to literally anyone if they just kind of stop with their confirmation bias and think, oh, well, that could be me. Yeah, shut up, astrologist. Okay, so cringe. I hate astrologists, dude. Literally the worst people. Honestly, the worst people out there. All right. Anyways, let me switch out my camera battery. But while we're doing that, we'll move on to the next question. You cannot be moral without being religious. I guess to an extent you could live totally as a moral person. But obviously you have no. And by the way, it's very rare actually that people are, because it's like it's very and. I know liberals think, well, you blank slate all this, humans are naturally good, all this stuff. But to be completely honest, without religion, without some type of like hierarchy that kind of keeps us moving, we ultimately descend, really, I would argue, into our natural, like animalistic primal tendencies to just, kill and murder things. And even if it's not directly kill and murder, it's like we kind of succumb just to our natural vices and demands. And I think a lot of times it's very hard to be moral without being religious. But I would still put agree, because I think without some type of religious, framework, it's very hard to justify where your morality comes from. And I know all of the libertarians are like, but it comes from nature. Look, natural law, it can naturally be observed. But I mean, let's be totally honest. It's honestly all a cope. Like, it doesn't, every attempt to explain morality without some degree of religious, like, oh, it's natural law. No, it's not. I mean, I know we call it natural law, and that's the term I use because I'm kind of describing those principles, right? But natural law really is not, classical liberalism, the whole, like, all men are created equal type of theory. That, and I know it's referred to as natural law, like, Locke and stuff. They kind of, the Enlightenment thinking considered it to be natural law, but I don't think that type of law is natural at all. I think that natural law, the true state of nature, is like, and I guess I do understand to the extent to where it's like, oh, you have to defend yourself and stuff like that, right? But that is natural law technically, but I guess I am. Okay, to be fair, I am kind of misinterpreting natural law. But the point I'm making is that, like, the state of nature is not like one of order or of morality or of like equal rights or equality or anything like that. No, it's exact opposite of that. You know what I mean? So I'll agree with that. Okay. Charity is better than Social Security as a means of helping the genuinely disadvantaged. I mean, I agree with that. Yeah, I agree with that. Now, I don't think that the government has no role in helping people, but I mean, I would agree. Yeah, usually, the more closer it is to you, right? The more, like, it's when you're getting your money all the way from Washington D.C. from some bureaucrat, and it is kind of a psychological thing too, not just to the extent to which it's like. It's like, think about this. You're someone who's kind of in a rough situation, right? When you take money from the government, especially like the federal government, it's like you don't have any kind of respect from where that money came from. You won't naturally see that money as like being like that's someone hard-earned money, and it is, but it's like you won't really associate it necessarily like, oh, this is someone's really hard-earned money. I feel guilty about taking this to begin with, and I'm gonna do my best to make sure I make the most of this. Well, yeah, when you're taking like government money, that's not how it is. It's like, oh, well, thank you, government, for my money. Oh, well, the government has a bunch of money anyway. Like, but on the other hand, when your charity comes from your local community, when a bunch of people in the community basically like get together and pitch in and basically take money out of their salary to help you, or when the church basically does the same thing, right? The church collects a bunch of donations for you from ordinary people and they give it to you. It's like you feel kind of a stronger sense of like responsibility with that money. It's like, oh man, like all my neighbors help me with this. Like, I'm going to use this. I appreciate, first of all, you truly appreciate it. And because you truly appreciate that money that you're receiving, it's like you are more likely, I would argue, to be more responsible with it. So yeah, I would agree with that. Some people are naturally unlucky. I guess. I mean, I mean, I didn't. What is this even trying to say? Like, what? Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes some people have bad luck. Sure. What does it have to do with politics? Okay, I don't know. It is important that my school instills religious values. Yeah, well, I don't know if it like. I think the main goal. I think like. It really should. Now, do I think that schools can help reinforce it if they're religious schools? Yeah, but I also think that it's like it should be the parents' job mainly, right? That should be their. I think the main responsibility should be on the parents. Now, do I think it? I don't know. I guess I agree with that, but I also think that, well, Like I said, I think that it should be the main responsibility of the parents, and even more so because it's like, especially if the parent has like theological differences with the school, it's like, you know what I mean? Like I think the parent should be the one. Obviously, it's a matter of who's right and who's wrong, but it's like the parent who should be the one who's like kind of. So I might actually say disagree with that. You know what I mean? I'll disagree with that. I think it's the main responsibility of the parent, not of the school. Now, again, I'm not saying schools can't, but I'm not saying it's. I don't know. Whatever. I actually kind of disagree with that. Sex outside marriage is usually immoral. Yeah, I agree with that. I'm gonna put strongly agree. Just you know. We must be we must stay pure, boys. But yeah, joking aside though, okay. I think that, obviously it's not this is a political test. Politically speaking, obviously this is not a standard that close to all of society would follow, but I think it is obviously a very good standard to set for society, right? Because the kind of the more that people in society cherish sex as like, as like a gift between a man and a husband and wife, just the better it is, right? The further back we can push from the sexual revolution, even if it's something that only 60-70% of the population listens to, or at least says out loud that they listen to, still I think that's a good thing. So agree. A same-sex couple in a stable, loving relationship, which, by the way, statistically speaking, is rather rare. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, okay? But statistically speaking, stable same-sex marriages are not a statistical normal, right? Very often we know that the divorce rate among same-sex couples is quite high, but I was just pointing that out. Okay, a same-sex couple should not be excluded from the possibility of child adoption. So I think that personally, I think that marriage is between a man and a woman. I think that same-sex couples, even if they are totally stable and really love each other, I don't think that they are equivalent to straight relationships. I think that naturally you need the role of a man to raise a kid properly. Now, obviously, single moms have this problem. Single dads have this problem. But in order to ideally raise a kid properly, I think you need a masculine fatherly influence and you need a feminine motherly influence. Obviously, you cannot get that with a same-sex couple. You just cannot. And so I think that, it should always be straight people that get the first try at adoption. Now, with that being said, now, again, same-sex parents are far from ideal, okay? I genuinely think that it should be like prevented, as much as possible. But I think it's definitely still true that even as unideal and as bad, as really ultimately not good as it is for kids to be raised by two moms or two dads, because again, I think you need a mom and a dad. I think that's important. I think it is better than the foster system. It's much better than the foster system. Like that is terrible. Like I think even then. So I will slightly agree with this. Now I think that they should always be the last in line. I think that it should always be straight heterosexual couples marriages that come first. But I think that now I don't know the numbers on this. So it may be a kind of a fallacy because there's not really a shortage and there's plenty of straight people that are in line and waiting to adopt. So I don't know. So I'll leave it. I'll leave that out. But I think that, if there are no straight people available to adopt, is it better that a same-sex couple takes them on than a foster system? Yeah, I think it'd be hard to argue that that's not the case. But I don't think that they should be given like the first in line at all. And if you want me to get more into it, we can, but it's like, I'll make a whole video at some point actually about like gender roles and kind of talking about them. But it's like the natural order, the natural state of things is, as much as liberals tell us about blank slate and gender equality and all this stuff, you know, this is generally true. Obviously, we were talking something that's kind of social science and also biological science, but even in both, there's going to be exceptions to all the rules I say. But largely, it is true that men and women are different in more ways than just our physical appearance and our reproductive organs. We are also mentally, psychologically, and to even a large degree, spiritually different, right? And from a biological basis, this should not be hard to understand. We actually have different brains, right? I mean, we have the same structural parts, but it's like we have different brains in the sense that we have, you know, certain parts are larger, smaller. We have different hormones, right? We have different psychologies. There's kind of a natural male psychology and there's a natural female psychology, okay? And one of my guys' main arguments would be that you need, like they are meant. I think they're kind of designed evolutionarily and by God, obviously, but to, you know, complement to one another, right? It's like the male brain and the female brain complement one another, and that's why it's set up so that we reproduce and we kind of raise kids together, right? And we have our different roles. And that's, by the way, I would argue that different psychology is why men and women naturally are driven to different things, right? This is why I know it's the big mystery. It's a big mystery as to why, in America, in European countries, where we've tried to achieve total workplace equality and total equality of opportunity, we still find disproportionately men, pursuing different fields than women, and women pursuing like different fields, right? Men naturally take on that sort of more ambitious, like work build type of fields, whereas women traditionally, even with equal access to both, you still see women traditionally taking on roles more disproportionately, like nurses and teaching, roles where it's like their job to nurture, right? Because women are naturally better nurturers than men, and men are kind of like builders, right? You know what I mean? I think this is just natural. Like, this is just the way it is, right? This is the way and I don't think this is because of sexism or society, any social construct, quote unquote. I don't think it's a social construct. I think it's a biological construct that this is the way it's a natural construct that this is the way we are. And so, I think that's a big reason why gender roles really are a real thing and cannot be, where was I? Okay, whatever. I'm taking too long on that anyway. Pornography depicting consenting adults should be legal for the adult population. I actually, screw it. I strongly disagree with this, okay? Porn is terrible. Porn is literally a drug, okay? And I won't get into this into this too much. I'm sure you've all seen John Doyle's anti-porn dissertation. If not, go watch it. You can get into that, But I guess what I will say is that, well, Vince, what about the First Amendment? Porn is not speech. Obscenity is not speech, okay? Even in the standard that's currently in place by the Supreme Court has ruled that obscenity is not speech. And porn, and unless it has some type of really artistic value, which porn does not, okay? And don't get me wrong, if they do that, they'll try to find some ways around it where it's like, oh, well, this porn has a storyline. Hey, buddy, the porn with the pizza boy delivering, it's like, oh, here's my package. That's art, bro. That's art. That's artistic expression. Okay. Yeah, they will try to find the way around that, but let's be real, folks. There's no artistic value to porn. Okay, there just is none. Vince, who says that? Is it art subjective? Yes, it is subjective, but it is objective because I'm deciding it. Okay, deal with it. You mad? You mad, bro? But yeah, I would say porn. What porn does to our society is more than just it's just so destructive. Okay, and again, watch the anti-porn dissertation. You can really understand that. And if you go by the end of that and still say I still think this should be legal, something wrong with you. Now, do I think it is realistic that we are going to be able to ban porn? No, but I think that a realistic solution, like a policy solution, we could actually achieve on the issue of porn is. So number one, we could treat it as a drug and raise the viewing age. You have to be 21 years old to view porn. Now, obviously, the current problem is technically you have to be 18, but there's no age verification. That's what I would change. See, I would say you have to go through, and I think this is a realistic policy prescription, which would be that if you want to access porn sites, you have to basically verify your identity, right? You have to have a government ID, a real ID, and you have to, and maybe even a social security card, right? And you have to basically upload those and basically go through the same process that, you know, you have to use to open investment accounts, open stocks or trade crypto, right? You would have to go through that same identity verification process as you do to watch porn. Now, if we even have just did that, imagine how much better things would be. Because now it's like, I think they say the average age at which people start viewing porn is age 11. What the hell is wrong? And it's like, at the very least, when people are older and they're viewing it for the first time, it's a little bit less, you know, because of neuroplasticity, it decreases as you get older. And I'm not saying it's ideal. I don't think anyone should be watching it, but it's a little bit not as bad as all these kids watching it. And while their brains are so young and so easily malleable, it's so bad. And so ideally, I would say make porn illegal, but even realistically, I think even if you put a strict ID verification, you made everyone a database, it would honestly deter a lot of people from watching it. It wouldn't deter everyone, but it would deter a lot of people, I think. And that's good. The less people watching it, the better. So, you know. What goes on in a private bedroom between consenting adults is no business of the state. I mean, yeah, I mean, I would agree with this. Now, I do not think it is no business of the society. I think, you know, I think there is something to be said about the sexual revolution and why it was a very bad thing. It's setting very bad standards. It's destroyed families. It's harming family creation. It's creating a lot of destructive behavior, right? And so I will not say I don't think it's no business of the society or of the culture. I absolutely think it is. But like government, you know, coming in and people having sex with a government spy drone, right? They're like, hey, we're watching you. Hey, whoa. Like, no, I wouldn't say it's that in that degree. It's, you know, the business of the state. No one can view naturally homosexual. No, I disagree with that. I think you absolutely, I think that, you know, and that's not to say that I think it is necessarily like natural in the sense that it's like, yeah, obviously you are kind of, you know, people are supposed to be heterosexual. We can observe that in a number of ways, but most obviously and most practically by, you know, homosexuals cannot reproduce. And that is the point of sex, ultimately, biologically speaking, is to reproduce. But I think that, you know, when people do feel homosexual, I don't think it's something that like they naturally control, right? It really is just the way your brain, your hormones kind of like, you know, manifest, and that's the way it kind of comes up. And don't get me wrong, that's not to say that I think, and by the way, I don't think people are born gay, right? That's not how it works. You know, there really is no gay gene, despite a lot of resources spent trying. Scientists still don't have a gay gene. They don't know really any genetics that have any significant factor in it. And don't get me wrong, there could be some genes that, you know, sort of lean you towards more likely being gay. But, you know, I think it's kind of a nature versus nurture thing, you know, in the environment, you know, prenatal hormone exposure, just the way you're raised up, the way your genes and your brain interact with the environment, the way your hormones develop, that type of stuff. You know, I don't think it's necessarily that you can't. And by the way, just psychologically, the influence of culture and society around you, like that. So I think it's something you kind of come up in, and it's like, I don't think it's that people necessarily choose to feel like that. Now, with that being said, I think it's also true that it is possible for people to change the way they feel, right? It's not going to be true of everyone, obviously, but there are a lot of people who, you know, especially when they're young, they go through a bisexual or gay phase where they're feeling those thoughts, and then over time, they outgrow them. And so I think that's also possible. And which is a big reason why I say that the way our society kind of encourages that type of lifestyle and tries to say, instead of saying, oh, maybe you're just confused. Oh, maybe like, are you sure? Right. Now you're taught that's bigoted. Now you're taught like, no, don't do that, you know, but that's absolutely true. Like there are a lot of people who may feel those thoughts. I have a lot of friends, by the way, even in middle school, who said they were bisexual. They felt gay thoughts. And then as they got older, they just grew past them. Like they're just straight now, right? The problem is when you have a society that psychologically reinforces it. We teach our parents now, the society does, that is like, oh, no, you have to accept that they're gay. You have to be supportive as much as possible. What do you think that's going to do? That's just going to reinforce it. That's going to make it less likely for them to actually, you know, just end up deciding that they're straight. Or not deciding, but starting to just feel straight again. Whereas you have a society that kind of discourages it and kind of says, no. Well, maybe you're not, right? Well, then I think if that's the case, you're more likely to have a society where, you know, people are able to turn away from that. These days, openness about sex has gone too far. Yeah, I mean, strongly agree. Okay. Let's see where I stand. Let's see where I stand, folks. Again, this test sucks. So before we, obviously take these results with a grain of salt, they're very unreliable, right? Very unreliable results. But the only use, I guess, of this test is I got to give a lot of takes, right? I basically explained a lot of things that I believe, and I think that's the value to this. But let's see where we stand. Let's see where we stand on this. Very useless, not very easy to take serious test. Let's see where I got. Let's see, what did I get? Okay. So that's basically about exactly what I expected. Slightly on the economic right, not super duper like laissez-faire libertarian, but more economically right wing, generally leaning towards capitalism, and I'm more socially authoritarian. I'm in the social authoritarian quadrant. Yeah, okay. Those are not terrible results. That's basically what I expected. I know a lot of people are going to be like, "That's not authoritarian enough." Hey, maybe you're right. Okay, maybe you're right, but it's just the way the test is the way you come out on the test. So yeah, that's actually not terrible. Yeah. So you guys can kind of see it, right? I'm kind of like center right on economics. More, I guess, I think the authoritarian, the social questions are not well framed. So I think it's very hard to really gauge these accurately, but I am more authoritarian leaning, libertarian leaning, right? So, okay. You got authoritarian left. Many such cases. I know a lot of like populist paleo conservatives and stuff that always get the authoritarian left, which is weird. But yeah, you can see this is basically right wing populism, right? So, all right, there we go. All right, so like I said, I took way too long on this test, so I'm not going to take both tests I said I was going to take, but I will take. Okay, now let's take a test this is a lot shorter too. I'll go through this a lot faster. But before we wrap up on the stream, let me take a test that I personally think is a lot better of a test, and let me see. There's a few ones, and I got to make sure I find the right one. But this test I think is a lot better, a lot more accurate. It asks a lot better questions. And it's called, I forget if it's what type of right winger are you or what type of conservative are you? Because I know there's two type tests like that. So let me really quickly just browse through to make sure I have the right one. Let me see. Let me see. I think it was about 20 questions. So let me see. Okay, this is too long, so I don't think this is the right one. Okay, I think it was what type of conservative are you? So let me look for that. What type of conservative are you? What type of conservative are you? Okay. Let me see. I think it's this one. Yeah. Let me make sure. 15 questions. I think there was one that was a little bit longer. That's the better one. So let me see if it's that one. Is it what species of conservative are you? Yeah, okay, this is the one. Okay. So if you want to take this test, it's on GoToQuiz. It's called What Species of Conservative Are You? And I just feel I just like this test. I feel like this the type of it's just the questions that are asked on this test are a lot more specific usually, and it just presents results that are a lot better. Obviously, this is only a test you could really take if you're a conservative, but obviously if you are a conservative, it's a lot better because it's like it really narrows it down, right? When you're asking such broad, it's a lot harder to get accurate and good results when you're asking so broadly. But if you're narrowing it down to a very specific political sphere, I think it's just easier. It's just a lot better to be able to like really figure it out. So, let's do this test. All right, what is your age? 18 to 24. I'm a male. Okay. Now let's see. All right, question, and you can already see, you see how these questions are just better and they're kind of more relevant, I think. Question number 1, or number 3 in this case. Which of these is most important to you? So we have keeping taxation and the budget balanced. Okay. Obviously, we all know. Okay, we all know. I've made a lot of videos criticizing this brand of conservatism, the over hyper focus on all about small government. And I'm like, yeah, okay. Is it important to keep the budget balanced? Yes. Should taxation be low? Yes. Do I think this is the only issue? Do I think this is even the main issue? No, absolutely not. I think this big government, small government dogma is extremely flawed? Yes. So obviously you guys know that libertarian, small government conservatism, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Now next option, we have protecting traditional, cultural, religious, and social values. Yep, I find that very important. The other one we have is protecting democracies, trade, and stability around the globe. Okay, Bill Kristol. Okay, George Bush. Shut up. Get out of here. Neocon, you guys know how I feel about that. You guys know how I feel about globalism and the globalist American empire. Let me reiterate. Actually, I've been reading this book recently too. So I can pull it up. It's on it's on an Apple book. I don't have the hardcover, but let me just pull it up right here. Yes. Can you even see that? You can't even see. Oh, hold on. Wrong thing. Oh shoot. A republic. Okay. It's a Pat Buchanan book. It's called A Republic, Not an Empire. It's so true, though, too. It's like America is a nation. We are a nation state. And I know, I get it. A lot of people romanticize the idea of imperialism, but clearly you can see that the values that we spread around the world are not exactly good based values. Like, no, it's we're spreading BLM and LGBT pride marches in Pakistan. Wow, guys, globalist American empire right here. But I would even argue, even if we were spreading good imperialism, America, here's what people need to understand too, is even if we were to be like the British Empire, people need to understand that imperialism is, and by the way, okay, we'll just say imperialism is a burden that I think a lot of Americans are simply not willing to take. Okay, while it does come with its benefits, many, of course, economic benefits, obviously, people need to recognize also that imperialism comes with a very high cost, a very high human cost. Okay, it means fighting wars in Africa. Okay, it means sending your children to die in Zulu wars. Okay, getting killed by a bunch of African tribesmen. Like, that is the cost of empire. It's like, and you have to. And we, and as Americans, in an imperial context, would have to be willing to be like sacrificing our resources and consistently fighting these battles and sending our young men, kids, to die in like these pointless wars, or not pointless, but imperialist wars, not to defend us, but simply to advance the idea of our empire, right? And that is just not and I know I'll go a lot shorter on the other questions, but this is important to me. That is not a burden that I think a lot of Americans simply are willing to take on. We hate imperialism. We traditionally it's really been true for most of American history. Americans have never been fond of war, or very fond of wars, especially for increased influence or whatever. The Iraq War, we all know, was very unpopular. Even the Spanish American War, that was a controversial thing. It was very Mexican American War. Like, those wars weren't, and don't get me wrong, like, for the most part, people kind of supported it, but they were not really like super popular wars. It was not something that it was America. A lot of Americans were very hesitant, right? And there's a reason for that. You look at the founding ethos of our country. We are a country that was founded on anti-imperialism. I mean, it's true, we were. And I mean, we also a country that was founded on self-determination, right? And that's what we believe in as Americans. We believe in self-determination for not just us, for everywhere, right? And so that's just a big reason why we just do not function. We do not work as an empire. We were not founded to be an empire. See, the British are different. Rome is different. These are where things were founded. The kind of bedrock, the founding ethos of these societies was inherently imperialistic. The problem with us is that we are not. And that's part of the reason why we are such poor imperialists. Every time America has tried to be imperialist, we've always screwed it up. You know why? Because that's not who we are. Okay, that's just not who we are. That's not who we were meant to be. And you often see too that when Americans, what since the fall of the Cold War, what have we tried to, and even before World War I too, like, what do we always say? We always said we're trying to spread democracy, we're trying to spread freedom, right? And like, this is always what we've tried to tell ourselves. That is another problem. That's another big reason why we are such ineffective imperialists, is because of like those founding ideals, because of our ideals. We have a hard time being honest with ourselves. See, the British were very honest with themselves. The Romans were honest with themselves. They were very like, we are imperializing, we are colonizing, we are conquering, and we know that's what we're doing, and we're doing it for ourselves and our own benefit, and the benefit of our society, of our flag, of our empire, of our civilization. We are spreading that civilization, right? But as Americans, we've always tried to justify our imperialism by saying, well, we're actually doing it for democracy or this or that. And it's like, that doesn't work, because we've never been able to honestly say, no, we're trying to subjugate people. We're trying to subjugate people under our regime, under our flag. And now, why now, when we try to do it to spread democracy or whatever, why does it not work? Well, it doesn't work because political democracy, nations and countries are different. Okay. So as much as the Declaration of Independence, and this is a flaw, honestly, in the Declaration of Independence, I will admit, is that it tries to say the truths are self-evident, right? It's just universal that this is the case. It's not. Most societies were not made to be democratic, okay? Political democracy barely works here. We are a society that, has had this kind of concept of political democracy since our founding, concept of republicanism since our founding. And even before that, when we were colonists, right? We descended from who? The British. The British had, Parliament, had sort of English common law, right? The British were probably like were at the time before us, the British were the most democratic society in the world, as much as people don't really recognize that, admit it. It's like, Parliament had more power in Britain than any sort of legislative body had anywhere else. So we descend from that. We descend from that English framework, from that English common law, right? And we have our founding, and so for the past not just like 300 years, well, yeah, for about like 400 years, this is how this land, this sort of society has been governed. And even for us, we struggle with democracy. Now, let me ask you this question. Let's take the example of Iraq, okay? You have Iraq, a society, or Afghanistan, a society that has never been governed by democracy, okay? Where the people are radically, societally, and culturally different than us. Why do we expect for our system of government to work in a totally different society? That's the thing. If you really believe in nationalism, if you believe in nations, and you believe in self-determination, then you should be mature enough to recognize that there are like these differences, right? That that not every society is universal, and there's no universal form of government. And I know it's a very long-winded thing, talk right here I'm having here, but I just wanted to bring that up because I think it is a take on why American imperialism ultimately is a failure. So here's the last one. I know I spent way too long and a bunch of people left the stream, but the last one people say is fighting back against immigration, multiculturalism, and political correctness. I think that obviously I think that's very important, but I would say for me the most important thing is probably protecting the traditional American society, right? Preserving the American ethos. That's most important for me. I think that the fourth one is important. I think that matters too, but I would say traditional culture. Like I think that's ultimately what's most important to me as a conservative. That's what conservatism is. It's preserving order, hierarchy, and the last one, tradition, right? And so we got to preserve that tradition. And the more we stray away from the society that we were built to be, that we were meant to be, the more we're going to get screwed up. So anyways, if which of these 2016 Republican but just to follow up on what I was about to finish before I got kind of sidetracked by saying, I'm taking too long on this. Okay. The reason I brought that up is because what happens when you hand democracy to Iraq, a people that are fundamentally different than us, culturally different from us, believe radically different things from us, and also have never been governed by democracy before, do not have this long and rich heritage of English common law and parliamentary systems and local governments and legislatures, and have basically been ruled by autocrats like for a very long time and basically always. What do you think is going to happen when you hand them democracy? It's a mess. Okay. It's a mess. And so if we want to be honest imperialists, we should say, nope, we're going to subjugate these people. We're going to conquer these people, right? Like that. If we were to be honest imperialists, effective imperialists, that's what we would have to do. That's what all past imperialists have done. We try to say it's about democracy. We actually do in some cases try to spread democracy, but it fails. The governments we've set up in places like Iraq and Afghanistan have been very weak. Why have they been very weak? Because it doesn't work, right? It doesn't work, So anyways, which of these 2016, if you have a society that's not meant to be democratic and you hand them democracy, that democracy is not going to work. Which of these 2016 presidential candidates for the GOP would you most readily support? Donald Trump, obviously, you guys know, you already know. 2016, I always praise 2016 Trump too. 2016 Trump was literally a legend. Okay. What is the greatest threat to our nation? Political correctness, social progressivism, the emergence of a new military rival, or big government? I definitely have to say social progressivism. Obviously, political correctness sucks too, but I think political correctness is simply one aspect of social progressivism. I do not believe big government, quote unquote, is in any ways like the greatest threat to our nation. Obviously, you do want to limit the size of government in some regards, but social progressivism, I think most would agree, most would admit this is the biggest problem facing our country, and social Marxism, as I would rather define it, threatens the very existence of America. Right, not just politically, and not just obviously social progressivism leads to political progressivism. Right, it leads to politically progressive policies, but also it's wrecking our culture. It's wrecking everything we believe as a nation. It's wrecking our people. So obviously, and I talk about this all the time. You guys know social progressivism is definitely the greatest threat to our nation. Which political ideology are you most vehemently opposed to? I guess socialism, I think so. I know so classical liberalism has a lot of flaws. Okay. But I can't say I would, that's what I'm most opposed to. Social democracy, again, has even more flaws than classical liberalism. But I really hate anarchism too, by the way. So maybe I should say anarchism. Like, I might say anarchy. I don't know. Socialism is obviously terrible, but like, I don't know if I could really pick one, Should I say socialism or anarchism? What do you guys think? What do you guys think? Socialism or anarchism? Let's say, yeah, you guys are right. Okay, it's true. Someone says, as a conservative, anarchism goes against everything we believe. That's true. That's true. So yeah, I would, because conservatism, again, as I defined it, true conservatism. What is it about? It's about hierarchy. It's about order, and the absence of all of those things is like the absolute, I would say, enemy of conservatism. So yeah, you guys are right. I'd say anarchism. Which of these figures would you do you most admire? Richard Spencer? Obviously, no. Richard Spencer is such an idiot, dude. Richard Spencer is genuinely such a stupid human being. Ronald Reagan? No. I don't hate him totally. I do think a lot of the precedents he set are very bad for the movement. Actually, that's what today's video that I was not able to get done was supposed to be about. It was supposed to be about Ronald Reagan. So I have that video out tomorrow about why we need to stop looking up to Ronald Reagan. Ron Paul, no. You guys know the answer. Pat Buchanan, the legend. Okay, we love Pat Buchanan, don't we, folks? I won't even be like, I basically align with like 99% of everything Pat Buchanan said. Like I'm a huge Buchananite. We love Pat Buchanan, don't we, folks? I think that's self-explanatory. Immigration has an overall negative effect on the nation and should be restricted. Strongly agree. Immigration absolutely should be restricted. And I think, if you were to be honest about it with yourself, we talk about it all the time, and there's a lot of other people that talk about it, so you can go watch them, and I don't want to take too long, but, we should absolutely be restricting immigration. The 1965 Immigration Act has been and like half of my family, the other half came before that. The other half actually came under 1924. But even though many of us are obviously benefactors of it, I think we could be honest and objective to admit that the 1965 Immigration Act was a disaster, and it really brought about a lot of negative changes and irreversibly negative changes to the country that we should make a video about this sometime. But, I'm a fan of, obviously, a lot of people say immigration moratorium, and like I'm not opposed to that, definitely. But I think the problem I have with the immigration moratorium is if we somehow, knowing Republicans, if we somehow got Republicans to do that, how long would they instate it for? 6 months? A year? Maybe 2-3 years if we're lucky. And then what's going to happen after that? After that, they're going to go right back to 1965 levels, and it's like that's only a temporary pause. So I think sustainably, realistically, probably the best answer would be is to actually reinstate the 1924 Immigration Act, reinstate those old levels of immigration, right? Because I think sustainably, realistically, knowing our politics, we could probably keep those numbers down for much longer than if we were to do a full-on moratorium that expires after 1 year, 2 years, right? No, Bring back 1924, keep it permanent, okay? Maybe change the quota system a little bit, but in terms of the numerical levels, 1924 all the way. So 20 years. I mean, obviously 20 years is like that's a good that's a long-term amount, but I'm just being realistic here, right? That's not, the Republicans would not do that. If we might get lucky and get a year, you know, and it's like, what does a year really do if you're going right back to the same levels afterwards? So, you know. All right, national identity and racial identity cannot be separated without becoming a traitor to one or the other. Oh boy, optics check. Whoa, optics check. Optics, folks. So I think that in the context of with many countries, this is the case, right? Like Japan is an ethno-state, right? That's what it is. It's an ethno-state. It's an ethno-state for not racial identity, by the way, ethnic identity. Racial identity does not mean a whole lot. It's more ethnic identity that really is like what defines people, right? Now, I think in the context, and so I think a lot of countries are built on like that ethnic identity, and I don't think that's immoral. I don't think that's a bad thing. Now, I think in the context of the United States of America, I don't think we're necessarily built as an ethno-state. Now, let me qualify that by also saying that I do think that like demographics matter, right? I definitely think that demographics matter, and I think that there is something to be said about demographic change and the fact, and like obviously if you have a country and you overwhelm it and you basically change the demographics of that country overnight, you basically change the population overnight. Obviously you live in a different country. But with that being said, I would not say that national identity to America specifically cannot be separated from racial identity, right? I think that, but that's not to say that demographic change in America doesn't matter and it's not something that needs to be talked about. But I say I disagree with that because I think that national identity in America specifically has a lot more to do with just racial or ethnic identity. But that's also not to say that it doesn't matter at all, right? But I do think that you can separate them in the American context. So I would say I disagree with that. Okay. Cannot be separated. I disagree. Yeah. Okay. The nation should use military force around the world in order to promote stability, trade, and democracy. Strongly, I accidentally put strongly agree. No. Okay, don't you dare screenshot that. Strongly disagree. We went over this earlier with the whole American Empire rant, so I won't get to, waste too much of your time on that. Okay. Legislated morality is a desirable thing for society to have. I actually agree with this. Yeah. Whoa, what? Legislated morale? No, I mean, this is actually true. And before you go whole libertarian on me, even the natural rights philosophy of society, people say, whoa, that's just objective fact. That's natural law. Okay, whatever. But that still is, at the end of the day, it's your morality, even as a libertarian, So I strongly agree with that. Legislative morality is actually a desirable thing. I agree. It's true. The government should be decentralized and local as possible. Yeah, I mean, I generally agree with this. I mean, I'm a federalist. I don't believe in like no federal government, but it usually is better. Government is usually more effective and more responsive to the people, the closer it is to home. So yeah, I would agree. Ideally, it should be as decentralized as possible. Ideally, your local government should have the most effect over you, and then the national government should be the weakest, right? And I think that's more stable, that's more cohesive, that's more effective. So yeah. But you do need a strong national government to an extent, right? Because you need to maintain that nation. But okay, it is sometimes necessary to place restrictions such as tariffs on free trade. Strongly agree. We did that in the last political compass test. So I won't take up too much time talking about that. But strongly agree. Dismantling the welfare state should be a top priority. I don't think it should be a top priority. Now, I do think we should cut back a little bit on welfare. I do think that, maybe even a lot in some places. I do think we should be reforming it. Do I think it should be a top priority? Nah. I mean, I wish they had a neutral button because I want to kind of just say I'm neutral on this. Now, I guess I'll put agree in the sense that it's like, because I know the question's kind of like weird, but I do believe in. I think what they're really asking is like, should we dismantle the welfare state? You know, I'm put disagree. Screw it. I'm put disagree. I'm gonna take the question at face value and say I disagree. Whoa, buddy, whoa there, buddy. Whoa, okay. I'm putting strongly disagree on number 15. Okay, we're not getting striked by YouTube here, folks. Okay. All right, let's just play clean with the optics here, folks. Okay, no, whoa. Okay, no. Okay. Women have their okay. This is also from the political compass test. Again, strongly agree with this. It is acceptable to ban immigrants of a particular religious, cultural, ethnic group from entering one's nation. Strongly agree with that. I agree with that. Yeah. I mean, border control is always the right of a nation. And I think it is absolutely true. It's just undeniably true, right? That like there are some groups of people that if let into your country and allowed to live in your country, fundamentally will destroy social cohesion. They will bring an entirely set of values and culture and all and religion and all that stuff that is just diametrically opposed to what you are as a nation. And then they will hurt your nation. They will harm your nation. That's undeniable. So I would strongly agree with that. Our society would be significantly improved if we could just lock up people expressing certain extremist political views. To some degree, perhaps, but I'll put disagree. We'll stick with the First Amendment. Okay. Now that's not to say I do believe that communists should be strongly shunned. Okay, but we are a country that was founded with the First Amendment. Okay, so don't get me wrong. So I'll disagree with that. Okay, but that I do believe that communists should be strongly shunned and blacklisted the way we used to do. Okay, I agree with that. Jail, state power, no, but like literally like blacklisting them using private institutions against people with far left views, absolutely agree. Good idea. So we would be better off if we could just go back to the good old days. That is true. Nope, that is true. The amount of is this even, I don't know if actually, I don't know if this is the right test because I feel like some of these questions were different, but anyways. Because there was a question on here that had something to do with like, I don't know, whatever. Yeah, might be taking the wrong test because I feel like the questions on this were a little bit different than whatever. We'll see. The amount of social programs is higher than it should be. I mean, yeah, I agree with this. Now, I don't think there should be none, but I do think it's kind of wasteful. It's kind of broken. So yeah. All right, let's see. I mean, social conservative. Okay. Oh shoot. All right, bad news, guys. This was the wrong test. This is not the test I meant to take. Shoot. Okay. I was taking the wrong test after all. But yeah, social conservative, paleo conservative. Okay. Dude, dude, I screwed up. That's the wrong test. I meant to take the one that has like new nationalist, paleo, like that's the one I wanted to take. Damn it. I'm an idiot. Let me see. Hold on. Let me just see real quick if this is this. Maybe this one was the test after all. So let's just speed run through this real quick. Okay. I won't go over all of them, but let's just speed run through this. Which of these candidates in the 2016 primary would you support? Donald Trump again. Okay, maybe this was the right test after all. Which of these people has had the best ideas? Absolutely Pat Buchanan again. Steve Bannon comes in close second, but I'll stick with Pat Buchanan. Optics. Disagree. Let's see. Dismantling the welfare state. Okay. We'll kind of say disagree with this. The nation needs tighter restrictions on immigration. Absolutely agree with that. Strongly agree. Social progressivism is the single strongest threat. Strongly agree. Racial identity. Again, I said I disagree with this. Protectionism is often necessary in order to maintain national sovereignty. Strongly agree. Liberal democracy has been proven to be a failed experiment. Therefore, we must return to monarchy and aristocracy. Okay, so there's some truth to this, right? There's some truth. Like liberal democracy, I think is very overrated. I think it is. It has a lot of downsides. I think there are a lot of downsides to it that should be fixed. I think we should reduce the amount of democracy we have in our system. With that being said, I slightly disagree. I'm not fundamentally super opposed to like monarchy, aristocracy, right? But I think that like, you know, it is. I think that to totally reverse on the system that our country was founded on probably would not end well. And I do think it has like the federal. I wouldn't call it a liberal democracy, but I would call it like republicanism, federalism. I think that it's not. I don't worship the system, but I think functionally speaking, it's probably the most practical as we can get. Okay, the state should be abolished. Strongly disagree. Strongly disagree. You need a government. Our nation must use military to, yeah, strongly disagree. A nation needs a strong leader to lead it to victory. Yeah, I would agree with that. Usually, yeah, I would agree with that. You know, obviously, you actually can sometimes have nations with weak leaders as long as the society is like super virtuous. Like, you know, America during the 1920s, very strong decade for America. Who do we have as our president? Calvin Coolidge, Silent Cal. He was a good leader. Was he a strong leader necessarily? No, he's not like a strong arm guy. But usually you want a strong leader. So I agree. Okay, yeah, no, okay, now I know this is definitely the right test I'm taking. No longer is the political modern battle of one of right versus left. It is now a war between nationalists and globalists. This is like straight out of like some of the speeches I've given and stuff. You guys know this. Okay, absolutely, yeah. Nationalism and globalism, that is the true battle of the 21st century. It is, do nation states remain, or do we become, you know, a globalist network or a bunch of economic zones meant to be bought and sold? Strongly agree with that. Strongly agree. Okay. A nation should prioritize the rights of its natural born citizens over immigrants. Strongly agree. Imagine disagreeing. Imagine disputing this. Okay. I mean, if we are going to have immigration, like, shouldn't it be common sense that immigrants like should like be able to be self-sufficient? I mean, that's just common sense to me. Okay. What is my top priority? Maintaining sovereignty against immigration and economic globalism. That is a top priority of mine, but let's see what else there is. Spreading democracy around the world, no. Protecting traditional values, that is also very important to me. Rejecting liberal democracy, no. Preserving the master race, no. Shrinking the size of government. Yeah, for me, it would have to be between protecting traditional values and protecting, you know, national sovereignty against basically globalism. I think the two, to a large extent, go hand in hand, right? So, but because this one is not really written like super strongly, this one just sounds cooler. I will say this. Now, I would say they're probably equally important to me, but I also think that they're intertwined, right? Like a big part of the globalist agenda is to erode the American heritage into traditional American society. So, anyways, let's submit our answers and let me show you. There you go. See, this is the test I meant to take. Okay, I was very stupid. I actually took the wrong test, but this is the test. Okay. So as you can see, what type of conservative am I? I am a new nationalist according to the test. And I like this test. I think this is a good result. New nationalism or neo-nationalism is a type of nationalism that rose in the mid-2010s, especially but not exclusively in Western Europe and the United States. True. It is associated with several positions such as right-wing populism. Again, you guys know that's me. Anti-globalization. Again, true. Nativism. Okay. A word with, I will not endorse it because it's a word with very negative connotation, but I see what they're getting at. Protectionism, true. Opposition to immigration, true. And Euroscepticism. By the way, Euroscepticism is basically skepticism of globalist, transnational governments. It really, in this case, it refers to opposition to the European Union, obviously. Brexit. Remember, Brexit happened in the same year that Donald Trump was elected, right? So, according to one scholar, nationalist resistance to global liberalism turned out to be the most influential force in Western politics in 2016. True. As you guys can see, this is the stuff I always talk about. So I always talk about 2016. You gotta build on that, preserve that, right? Particularly notable expressions of new nationalism include the UK referendum to leave the European Union and so true. And the election of Donald Trump as president as the United States. Yeah. So that's basically what I am, right? New nationalism. I guess you could say national populism, although I don't fully like to associate with that term because it's very negatively connotated. Not in the sense that there are a lot of cringe people that call themselves that, and I don't want to be associated with them. And as you can see, expectedly, what comes in close second? Paleoconservatism, right? And so that I would say that's basically where I align, right? Somewhere between kind of national populism, paleoconservatism. I don't really like to use like the strong labels because I think I borrow from a lot of both, right? Obviously, the problem with really identifying as either is because there's like it's so much like nuance in the sense that there's so many like different people that call themselves paleoconservative, national populist. It's all over the place. The connotation can be all over the place. So usually I just say I'm a populist conservative, or I'm like America first conservative, or I'm a nationalist, like whatever it is. New nationalist, not a bad term either, right? But I would say I could really fit into either camp. I think I'm very. I think like original paleoconservatism, as we would understand to be like the old right pre-war conservatism, and kind of like like the thought leader ideal a revolution that kind of Pat Buchanan sort of revitalized. Like obviously you guys know I very strongly align with Pat Buchanan, but obviously paleoconservatism, especially in the internet context, is kind of expanded. It's kind of a little bit past that in terms of connotation, and same thing with national populism and that sort of stuff. So again, I'm fine being called either. I think I can align with either. I think there are ways in which I align in either. I obviously share greatly from both sides. I think I'm closely aligned with both. So I think either label is not entirely inappropriate with me. But yeah, guys, with that being said, there you go. There's my political compass test. And again, it's called What Type of Conservative Are You? So that's from Go-To Quiz. That's the quiz I recommend. I think that's actually a pretty good test. And so, yeah, with that being said, guys, it's getting kind of late here. I'll read chat for a little bit, but then we'll get going here. Mr. Orange Horseman says, please end the stream. My headphones are low on battery. Bro, imagine thinking that's my problem. That sounds like a you problem, my guy. I got New Nationalism too. Yeah, most people do. I got VinceDao Nationalism. Who said that? Based. Let's go. Based. Okay, so true. Paleoconservatism used to be a neo-Confederate ideology, ironically. No, that's not. Well, there were definitely like people like that kind of aligned with it, but that's not really where it originates from, I would say. Thoughts on the Mr. Spheeves YouTube channel? Very epic. You guys should subscribe to him. Thoughts on Doyle versus Abbott? Listen, folks, we cannot take sides in this, okay? I love them both, okay? They're both my dogs, both my homies, both my fellows in Paris, okay? So I'm not going to take a side here. They're both great. They're both great. What are your current plans to advance the reach of the APU? Yeah, so we're going to be definitely just going to be expanding the content. We're working on doing that. But also, folks, I'll announce this right now. We'll let you know soon. We're going to be doing events. Okay, well, that's going to be our big thing. We're going to be doing events. We'll probably be doing one at SAS, like not at SAS, but like during SAS in the evening this year. And SAS will be it's in the summer. It's in Tampa. It's in July. And we'll let you know more about that soon. But if you're going to SAS, which is that Turning Point conference, pull up to our event. Okay, we'll probably have like Doyle speaking at it. We might even get a special speaker. I mean, I'll just say this: maybe someone like Paul Gosar, and this is not guaranteed. We might get someone like Paul Gosar or Nigel Farage or Steve Bannon or something like that. But we'll see. But why does Chandler still have more subs? Well, bro, Chandler's had like 30,000 for like a long time. I'm a much newer channel compared to him. Why do you like Pat Buchanan more than Ron Paul? Okay, this is a good question. Maybe I'll answer it another time. But like simply put, I just align with him more. I would consider myself very closely aligned, if not a paleoconservative, if not like just simply am a paleoconservative, right? Like a real paleoconservative. At least in a kind of an OG paleoconservative, as the movement crowned by Buchanan, like obviously there's a lot of a lot of people use it, but I'm talking about like if we were to say that Pat Buchanan is like the godfather of the movement, yeah, I align a lot with him. And Ron Paul, I know he's libertarian, but I actually think Ron Paul was solid on some issues. He's much better than a lot of the libertarians of today, who are just absolutely cringe and basically just shill for globalism and stuff like that. But I think that I think it's best explained with the difference between conservatism and libertarianism. I think that something that Buchanan recognized was that there is, again, natural order hierarchy and sort of a tradition that's needed to preserve a society and to keep a society healthy, stable, and by the way, free, right? In order to keep it a free society. And libertarianism, which essentially originates and is kind of rooted in classical liberalism, and that's what, Ron Paul kind of followed, right? I feel like does not recognize that, true freedom is actually granted through order. True liberty cannot exist without order and morality and stability and hierarchy, right? And this whole blank slate theory of like, everyone's all individuals. Like in practice, maybe in abstractly in theory, it sounds great, but in practice really is not the case. I think Buchanan really recognized that like the social cohesion that's needed to keep a society together. He was big on, obviously America has to, America cannot undergo rapid demographic change overnight and expect the country to be the same and hold together the same. And he has many quotes talking about how, I think his very famous quote is that when a religion dies, the civilization that grew out of it dies with it. It's like you need when the religion that America was founded on is held for so long is done away with, societally speaking, that country will not hold together. See, that's something that conservatism, at the very least paleoconservatism, really recognizes, like that you have to maintain this hierarchy and preserve and literally not just maintain but protect this hierarchy and this tradition in our country and our society in order for that to hold together. Whereas libertarianism, I think, is so focused on the individual that it does not like recognize society. It's so focused on individualism that doesn't recognize like the society around them, and that there is actually a collective, not in like the communist Marxist sense, but a collective in the sense that there's a society, you have neighbors, you have countrymen, and you have to have some duty to these countrymen, and you need to like share things in common with your countrymen in order for your country to be stable, right? So again, maybe I'll make a whole video later on about like answering it more closely, but simply put, that's why Buchanan to me, and really just conservatism in general to me, is far superior to libertarianism. So, I mean, what are your opinions on their strategies, Doyle and Abbott? Abbott seems more physical, while Doyle seems more theoretical. Well, I guess to the extent to which Abbott is always working out, Doyle does work out though too. No, I mean, I think they both have solid approaches. Doyle, I think, is more serious. But I mean, Abbott is obviously kind of a little bit more like satirical, but still, I think they both make good points. I think they just both have their roles. I mean, they're different. They have different content. They're different people, but I think they both are very, very useful. And they have their uses, and they're both great. We love them both. Vince had a Discord. I think I still do have a Discord, unless it got nuked or something. To my understanding, I do still have a Discord. Okay, we'll take like two more questions here or something. Is it true that you're nuking the Discord server? I never said that. Okay, last question here. Have you ever been to Vietnam before? I've never been to Vietnam before. I don't really plan on going, to be honest. I know it's my ancestral homeland. Well, 75% of my ancestral homeland. Who cares, dude? Let me tell you a story about Vietnam, okay? Vietnam is dirty. Okay, it's a dirty country. No disrespect, but it's a dirty country, okay? And it's not like on like India levels of like trash in all the rivers or no toilets or anything. But like, I mean, first of all, it's humid as hell, okay? It's in like tropical weather. It's humid and hot as hell. So everything's sticky. So that just inherently makes it like slightly more dirty. But then it's like the sanitation is just not good. The food preparation is not good. Let me tell you a story. I have a friend who's Vietnamese like me. The last time he went to Vietnam, I don't know if he's something he ate or the conditions he was living in or something in the air. He was like deathly sick for like a week. He got super sick while he was in Vietnam with God knows what. Well, God knows what tropical disease he came with, but he was out for a week. Okay. They literally had to like keep him in the house and he couldn't go anywhere. He was screwed up. Okay. But even worse, let me tell you a worse story. My grandma almost died. Okay. My grandma went to Vietnam in about like late 2019 or early 2019. My bad, I have my years screwed up. Early 2019, she went to Vietnam. She came back with like a very rare strain of pneumonia that they literally couldn't even identify. Okay, and she was deathly sick, like she almost died. Okay, she almost died catching some rare tropical pneumonia in the middle of Vietnam. And like, I know two people who have been to Vietnam, mostly for the most part, and they both almost died. I ain't going, okay? Screw that. Like, no, I'm good. I ain't catching no tropical disease. I mean, it's like, the food preparation in Vietnam is really not on Western standards. I know a lot of people who say, yeah, you go to the supermarkets, there's like rats running around in like Saigon and Hanoi and stuff. I'm just no way, and it's hot and humid as hell. No, I'm good. Okay, I'm good. Listen. I probably will never be able to travel internationally anyway because like of vaccination rules and all that. But even if that's not the case, I'm good, man. I don't. Maybe if they become super better developed, but it's like, yeah, I don't even see the point really. Why? Give the commies a bunch of tourist money? Like, yeah, I don't think so. But anyways, guys, with that being said, I'm going to wrap up the stream tonight. Hope you guys enjoyed. We're going to be doing streams like once or twice a week this summer. I do very much enjoy. It's called we do a little bit of streaming, right? We do a little bit of streaming. But yeah, with that being said, guys, have a very good night, everyone. We'll see you guys again tomorrow. I'll have that Ronald Reagan video up. And yeah, see you guys later, and peace.